Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family, and we chose this one. This is episode 57, Fast 5, Lap 5. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode is brought to you by Ashworth College. Their career diploma locksmithing department is available to you online. There's more to locksmithing than meets the eye. In their locksmith course online, you'll receive real tools, textbook reading material, and assignments and online lessons to help you respond to emergencies, deal with high-tech systems, and master the key skills, pun intended, needed for a career in locksmithing. Ashworth College.
I like when you Google Ashworth College, the first thing people also ask is Ashworth College a legitimate school?
It has a website.
Yeah, well, the answer to that question is found on their website, so it's like, yes, of course we're legitimate. Of course. Why would you not think that you can learn how to pick a lock online at a non-legitimate school?
They have other programs, but specifically the locksmithing department reached out to us because, we're doing Fast 5. There's a giant safe in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Italian Job is now canon.
Yep.
Maybe Charlize went to Ashworth College.
Ooh.
Online.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So we are here before we head down to Rio to double up our safes and steal a whole bunch of money, then dance to Danza Kuduro. Let us do the top of the show stuff. Before Cara joins us, Joe, let's get down to the nitty-gritty extracurricular activities. What have you done since we last recorded about a week ago?
I think I have done absolutely nothing.
Okay, very
nothing
cool.
Fun, nothing out of the ordinary. I had a chill weekend. I pretty much stayed in the house. It's getting cold here now. Yeah, that's about it. Nothing.
Keep it simple. I love it.
Yep.
Last Thursday I went to New York for work because, every year I go out to Las Vegas for CES. Last Thursday they sort of had the unofficial kickoff or the official kickoff, I don't know, to the CES season. They had CES unveiled in New York. And so the president of the CTA, which is the organization that puts on the show, gets up on stage and speaks for a little while. There's some vendors there, some exhibitors there, showing off some cool stuff. So I did that.
It's like a bonus episode of CES.
Yeah, exactly. Pit stop of CES. It's nothing really kind of compared to CES because CES is sprawling and massive, and this is a very hand-picked 25, 30-ish vendors, exhibitors. So It was cool to go there. Over the weekend, I did not do a ton, but once again, we were blessed, #blessed, by a new Nicolas Cage movie, this movie called Primal.
I feel like, didn't it come out a while ago, though? Or we were talking about it. Is this the one that we were talking about with Mike? That
When?
you and I were talking about with Mike, maybe?
I don't know which one we were talking about, but so he put out 8 movies last year. He had none until August of this year, because Mike and I were getting worried, because it's late July. We're like, I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
And then he had one in August, one in September, one in October. This one just came out in November. He's got one lined up in December. He's got one lined up in January. We're
So he's on
a Cage chain. Like the last movie that came out before this one was called Kill Chain. So Mike and I are calling this the Cage chain. And we are blessed. So what that means when Cage has a new movie come out is that I hung out with resident historian Mike Manzi. He came down to my house and we did our latest episode of Cage Club. But we also did our first episode of Viva Pod Vegas, the Elvis Presley film podcast. So he and I watched Love Me Tender from 1956. Good movie. Elvis not the star. I think it might be the only movie where he's not the star.
Interesting.
It's interesting because especially this movie,
the song.
This podcast. Well, yeah, the song. So the song feels wildly out of place from the other songs in the movie.
Oh, interesting.
There is...
Is it all Elvis songs in the movie? Or
yeah,
is
so
it
there's four, he sings 4 songs, they're all Elvis songs. You can listen to the episode if you want the full backstory, but basically this was not an Elvis movie. They got Elvis, they made it an Elvis movie, they had a different name for it, then he wrote the song Love Me Tender, it sold 1 million copies, and they're like, oh, so this movie is now called Love Me Tender, he's going to sing it in this movie. Basically retrofitted everything to make this movie about him and that song. And the exciting thing, Mike and I are going to do all of these in person, which I think is just more fun. Like when we did the
that is fun.
Fast and Furious 6 in person, you and me and Rachel, I think that was really great. We don't live close enough to do every episode together. It was very cool to see the movie and just sort of see a different, because it's by far the oldest movie that Mike and I have covered. Cage and Keanu and Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise all started 1980, 1981. And then when he and I did Cinemakers, our podcast where we went through directors, we basically were like, let's try to keep in this era, around the 80s and 90s and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we've done a few things on the network before, and I think we're going to do a few things on this show before. But really, Mike and I have not really gone back that far, and just so it was kind of cool, like a different. So I mean, it's the same thing. You're just talking about a movie, but it was cool to see an older movie and talk about it and think about it that way. So Viva
Yeah.
Pod Vegas, wherever you find podcasts. And if you ever find yourself down here and you want to record with us in person, that's the only requirement. Like I said, only in person. So
Okay.
tough luck to anybody who does not live
Only
near us.
80s Joel.
Yes, only 80s Joel. Step Brothers, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Now
exactly.
on Netflix again, I think.
Oh, cool.
So, yes, that was all I did, basically. I watched the Vikings hold on to a win over the Cowboys this weekend
True.
as we record this. As it just happened, as this comes out, they play the Broncos. So, hopefully, it's in Minnesota. So,
Yeah.
theoretically, should win, and they have a bye week. So, hopefully, we'll be going to the bye week 8-3.
That'd be cool.
I don't know.
Pretty solid.
The Steelers on a nice little uptick, looking like a
Looking
good possibility for a wild card.
Hopefully, yeah. Fingers crossed. We play the most undangerous man in the league this Thursday.
Tomorrow night, yeah.
It happened, yeah.
Very exciting. We have a Patreon page, toofast2forever.com. If you want to know the next two theme laps, or the lap themes, patreon.com. Even $1 a month gets you over there. Here's a very cool thing. This was a Joe idea.
Ooh.
This is both a way to get more involvement on Patreon, but also a way to actually, I think, do good things in the world. So, Joe, if you want to share with our listeners your idea for what you want to do with some of the Patreon money that we've made, and if people want to add to the Patreon or whatever, what are we going to be using this money for?
It's getting around holiday time, so everybody kind of does Toys for Tots, right? Some variation of this. My local radio station does one. As the Too Fast fam could pull some money together and buy a whole bunch of Fast and the Furious toys to donate to Toys for Tots. And then there'll be like we can spread the fam, instill Fast and the Furious love into the next generation down. I went and picked out a whole bunch of kind of like Matchbox cars, some like bigger die casts, some remote control things. My idea was like if you guys want to donate specifically to this, you're welcome to, and we can figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, I can email people my Venmo or something, or I'll let you know if you want to donate specifically to this and you don't want to do the Patreon. I'll give you my Venmo. We can put it toward this.
An even easier idea is do the same thing. Go buy a bunch of Fast and the Furious toys and take it to your local Toys for
And
Tots.
email in pictures of what you bought.
I'm gonna take a big picture of what we get when we pull everything together, and we'll send it off, and hopefully we'll make a bunch of little kids happy with a bunch of cool Fast and the Furious toys, which would make me happy. We can do some outreach.
Yes.
A little bit of fast love outreach.
And so we basically have not spent any of the Patreon money in the last couple months. We did one last job, if you will, one final Facebook ad. So we're going to spend a little bit of money on that. But other than that, we got a sort of a sizable amount of money. I mean, not a ton of money. We got about $100 in the Patreon bank.
Enough for toys.
And we're going to put that toward Fast and Furious toys. So again, if you want to be involved with that, you can go over to the Patreon.
And it will
or
come
just,
from all of us. It will come from all of our patrons.
From the family, from the 2F2F family.
Yes. So if you already are on there, you did your part, or you can do more, or not care about this at all. It doesn't matter to me. That's what we're going to do.
Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, and Alex Ellenin for supporting us over there and helping us, without knowing it, give toys to kids, toys to tots. So thank you all so very much for supporting us over there. Joe, we have an email address here on the show, family@cageclub.me. Are you ready to crack open the email bag and see what's inside?
Ooh, unzip me.
4 emails. Last week we had 0. We have 4, including 2 back-to-back real quick since we started talking. So
wow.
Just in time, just under the wire. I don't know how to pronounce this, and that's the point. I'm going to put this in the Discord chat. That's the beginning of the email subject line. It's a bunch of dots, stars, and ampersands.
Okay.
Just wanted Joey to read this. I have the power, LOL, Thundercats, hooah, from Nick Burris. He's taking this challenge to, make me read complicated subject lines to heart.
It's like ellipses, star, ampersand, 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 star, star, ampersand, 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 ampersand.
Yep.
I did it there. Ha.
I was trying to add a flourish. You basically read it like a computer would read it.
Yeah, if you put this into the read this text.
Dot, dot, star, asterisk, 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 ampersand, 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 asterisk, 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 ampersand, ampersand. Thought the guy looked familiar from 2 to 7. Remember we were talking about that guy who comes back way, way, way later?
With the muscle cars, yep.
Mm-hmm. Nick says Hyperdrive was interesting, but he said it was a little bland on the announcing, which I think we talked about.
I agree, that's what we said. Yeah, we kind of felt the same way, because you had the guy that does the UFC fights, but he's not really, the car guy, and the car guy was kind of toning it down, and like we needed a Drift King to be the. I agree.
By the end of the series, I was more on board with it, but I know that for sure early on I was not on board. I thought that they were kind of too bro-y and kind of bland, and I think you were having the issue that they weren't car-specific enough.
Well, because ultimately, this is a show that they're trying to sell you on the people, the characters, the participants. I thought that it was going to be more car-centric about what's going on. By the end of it, I was sold, and I was like, hey, I really like Diego. I really like his buddy. So, like, I liked the characters. But in the beginning, I was like, come on, man. Like,
Yep.
Yeah, but either way, I think they needed a Drift King still to be like, this is a cool drift. Look at how he slides.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nick says, I loved Shredder. He was my favorite. Love that the German got to come back without a windshield.
Yeah.
So
true.
those are things that we both said, I think.
I'm glad that she wasn't injured or went blind from the glass in her eye.
Joe 2, you suck. I fell for it about the Nas purge, more than just
Sorry.
O2 being purged. A little bit more information. He says there's two types of Nas systems. One is push button injected, and the other is in the engine all the time, no button.
Yes.
That's why I have the purge and race cars to clear the line. He says Steve Austin, Stone Cold.
Stone Cold.
Heard of him? Has a cool new show called Straight Up Steve Austin. Do you know this one?
Yeah, they kind of they advertise it like around the wrestling things. Like I think it comes on like before or after like SmackDown or Raw. Like
Gotcha.
One of them, and he pretty much does like he has a guest.
Yeah, Nick says he interviews people, but in a cool outside the box way.
Okay, yeah, I haven't watched an episode of it yet. I've been meaning to. He has some cool guests on that I've liked, and I mean, obviously, I like Stone Cold, so.
Yeah. Nick says I'm probably going to miss the Brick Mansion email on time. So about Brick Mansions, I noticed he was using a Burris scope, very nice name, to look at the rocket. He says, and how Paul switched sides again in this movie too. Still an awesome movie.
Yeah, he loves being on the dark side of the law.
And he says in Fast 4, I noticed how there's so much talking in the third person from both Dwight and Braga.
Oh yeah. You know what? We've mentioned it separately, but never together.
Yeah.
Because you have Dwight referring to himself as Dwight, but then you also have Braga, like, hiding his identity as Braga.
Yeah, I mean, they're both ego things, but they're kind of different ego things. Like, Dwight is just an ego because he thinks he's hot shit, and Braga also thinks he's hot shit, but it's also more like, I'm hiding who I am.
Yeah, it's a disguise.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nick says, one more thing. What do you think about the word boil? Which I guess talking one or two syllables, same thing to me. Same thing.
Boil?
Say oil or boil, or broil, or coil, or whatever.
Tinfoil?
Yeah, I don't know that there would be any distinction, right? Like it's all the same, either one or two, I think, right?
I say it just as boil.
Yeah.
It's like an elongated one syllable.
Yes.
But it's one.
Anyways, keep it going. Catch you on the road, Nick. Well, thank you, Nick, for writing in.
Thanks, Nick.
As always. Next email from Mr. Wes Hampton. What up, fam? Subject line Brick Mansions. What up, fam?
What's up? Oh, we saw Wes sent us a tweet beforehand, and he was pro masonry theory.
Oh, yes.
With us, and I just want to say thank you. That made me feel really warm inside.
I've been way too busy the last few weeks, and I knew I wasn't going to get an email in for the last episode, so this one will have to cover Fast and Furious and Brick Mansions. Both were great episodes as usual.
Thank you, Wes.
I'm not surprised Cara liked Fast and Furious, but I'm glad that she likes Los Bandoleros as much as she did.
Yeah, she surprisingly liked it a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So I was pretty shocked, to be honest.
A little bit of a teaser for the back half. She really liked Fast 5. My big question, and I don't know the answer to this yet, does she like Fast 5 more or less than Los Bandoleros? Like, is that still...
Yeah.
The high watermark.
We'll find out soon.
It's too bad more people aren't aware of that short.
Yeah.
Wes says, Brick Mansions was disappointingly not about Paul Walker as a Mason, but was a lot of fun, and Mrs. Wes and I are always suckers for RZA in anything. Here are my new episode observations. I don't remember if it was a commentary or if I read it somewhere, but I heard that the reason Los Bandoleros is at the end of Tokyo Drift, the song I think, and presumably why Don Omar and Tego show up in the movies is because Vin Diesel specifically requested it.
Oh, interesting.
Cool.
That'd be cool. Yeah, maybe just like down with the Spanish music. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, here, cool. This is cool. So Wes, on the subject of music, Wes picks his top 5 Fast and Furious songs.
Oh,
he
nice.
says it's
we
a
asked
tough
for that
call.
Last time.
Oh, actually, so I don't know if we said this. I remember as I was editing an episode, I messaged you about it, but I don't know if we said it on air. Tokyo Drift, like the Teriyaki Boys song, we did not mention.
That out.
Like we
but
mentioned the DJ Shadow song,
Drift
you mentioned
song.
all of Tokyo Drift. I want to point out specifically the Teriyaki Boy song.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. He says, this is a tough call. I know the first movie is a lot of rap rock, and Tokyo Drift is some Japanese pop or hip-hop, but I always associate the series overall with sort of anthemic hip-hop and reggaeton.
Yes.
He says Barracuda,
Fair.
which I think you mentioned, is great,
Yeah.
but I always associate the 5, 6, 7, 8s or any Japanese pop like that with Tarantino because of Kill Bill. Agreed.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
I have a Spotify playlist with all the big hip-hop songs from all the soundtracks that I listen to a lot. Well, Wes, send me that link.
Yeah, I don't have Spotify, but Thank you.
It's sort of a Fast and Furious greatest hit. So anyway, here's my list, roughly in order of how strongly I think it is associated with the series. So I'm going to go from 5 up. He does it 1 to 5, but we're going to go 5 up, okay? Number 5, We Own It. 2 Chainz, Wiz Khalifa.
Good. Yeah, that's a good one. And that was like the big. Which movie was it from? 6.
That's the theme song, the opening credits song from 6.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He says the 5th spot was tough to decide, but I think all the songs left of all the songs left, this is the one I hear most often out in the world, and I always think this is a Fast and Furious song.
It is. We started doing that without with songs that aren't in the Fast and Furious. So I hear a song and I'll be like, this really sounds like it should be in the Fast and Furious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yes.
Like when Fate came out, you were saying, oh God,
Despacito.
Yeah, you were like, that should have been the opening. But I feel like that's the kind of song that's like bigger than the movie. You know what I mean? Like it's not a bad thing, but it's kind of like it wouldn't be a Fast and Furious song in terms of like what Wes is saying. Like it's Despacito in a movie.
Yes, agreed.
So as compared to the rest of the soundtrack songs, is the one I think a person chosen at random would point to and say, that sounds like it's from a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
I also do want to say that the opening credits of that movie are so goddamn cool, and this, in the background of that, is great. As people have written in, and as you have said, that hearing the minute when I drop it in the edit, knowing what you're seeing as you're listening, I feel like that song I can hear, as I hear it, I can see the credits. Yeah. Number 4, Act a Fool by Ludacris.
That's a good one. But that reminds me of Ludacris and the album more than Fast and the Furious for me personally, because like that was like a Ludacris song first, you know?
He says, at this point the song is 16 years old, but Ludacris is so iconic and the whole song is about cars and even drops Too Fast, Too Furious in there, so it's an easy one to associate.
Yeah.
But I guess he wrote it for the movie, right? So
no, I thought Act a Fool was like before the movie came out.
But then why does he say Too Fast, Too Furious?
I think he just says it.
I
think he just references the movie. Like they still exist. Like the first one came out, but like not Too Fast, Too Furious came out.
Act a Fool, Ludacris song, 2003 single. It's from the soundtrack for Too Fast. And his 4th album, Chicken and Beer.
That's what I'm saying. See, I remember from the album. I think it came from the album first.
But it's only on the UK version of the album.
It was like a hit. It was like a single, I thought.
But
like
probably
here.
from the soundtrack is what I'm saying.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, as a UK
Perhaps.
bonus track. Yeah, it's not on the US album, it's not here. So in the US, it only came out on the soundtrack. So it was written for the movie and became a single. Probably they pushed the hell out of it because he was a hot artist. Like, the reason he's in the movie is the reason they're going to push the song.
Yeah, makes sense.
Number 3, Bandoleros, Don Omar and Tego Calderon. I love this song, and it shows up in at least 3 Fast and Furious movies, but I don't think that's enough to unseat number 2.
Ooh,
number 2.
So what's number 2?
Danza Kuduro, Don Omar and Lucenzo.
Yes.
It's one of the bigger reggaeton songs to come out of the series, and Fast 5 was so huge when it released that I feel like the song had left a bigger mark than the others. The non-soundtrack version was also a massive international hit.
It was, yeah.
And that music video is a great one too. I sent that to you and Cara when she's like, really like this movie. I was like, got me feeling like this. Then number 1, the one I most closely associate with the series, See You Again, Wiz Khalifa featuring Charlie Puth. This is the only one written for a Fast and Furious movie that hit number 1, I believe. It's definitely the longest running number 1 from the series, and most people know what it's about, even if they've never seen a Fast and Furious movie.
That's a really good point, yeah. If you hear See You Again, you know it's about, like, Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Like, without even knowing about Fast and Furious movies or anything like that, you'd be like, oh, yeah.
Because that was the Oscar push and all that stuff, right?
That, and it's also weird because this isn't, like, a normal Wiz Khalifa song. It's interesting that he would make this song to begin with.
Wes says, you misspoke a bit when talking to Cara about Brian's trajectory. He didn't rejoin the FBI between 2F and Fast and Furious. He basically got the biggest promotion anyone has ever received. He wasn't even the detective in the first movie. He was just the most convincing beat cop they could put undercover somehow.
Oh, fair.
So he's not FBI, he's still a cop in 4?
No, he was saying between like 2 and 4, right? Isn't that what you just read?
He said he didn't rejoin the FBI between 2 and 4. So he got promoted from,
Cop. Oh, no, because in 2 he's kind of like on the run. Remember? He just he goes back with the detectives.
So he's not a cop, but then he
just is trying to get his name clean because they come and find him. Remember, that's like the whole point of 2. It's like they come and get him. Like in 1, he's a beat cop.
Yep.
Then he goes on the run because he gives Dom the car. Then he's still like nothing and just kind of like working with the cops in 2, and then gets a huge promotion after he like wins 2. He like just becomes an FBI agent.
So if he gets a promotion, he's never not a cop then.
Well, he was on the run between 1 and 2, and like all of 2 essentially. Like he's like working with the cops, but they're like, you're not.
I think I'm just kind of sort of fuzzy because I feel like we have to also keep in mind that 4 is the reboot of 1. He's just a cop again, or he's in law enforcement because he was in 1. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily really truly matter how he got there, because 4, kind of says everything in 2 doesn't really matter.
Yeah, true.
So.
Very true. Yeah, exactly. 2 is its own spin-off in a weird way.
On to Brick Mansions. I'm right with Joe on Riz's taste in cars. I made a note while watching it. Quote, Riz's guys have so many nice cars and he's upset about a shitty Mustang?
Right, yeah, it felt weird to me. Like, it was just like a interesting choice. Like, maybe Ford gave them a ton of money and it was like partially Mustang promo or something. But it doesn't feel right when he's like, oh man, that's my baby. And you're like, but bro, you have all these other cars. Like, that's their favorite one.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's not even like, come on, man, I rebuilt that myself. You know what I mean? Or something like that would give it sentimentality.
Yep.
Or like, that was my dad's.
Actually, speaking of dads, we're going to have a little bit of news coming up in a little bit on the news segment here. So stick around for that. Paul Walker looks so weird in the beginning with his dark hair and brown eyes that I started to wonder if my mental image of him is skewed by seeing a, quote, more perfect CGI version so often. When he finally took those contacts out, I felt like the world made sense again. Yeah, like we talked about that a little bit, but I don't think I said that when they first show him like sitting at that table, like when he's undercover, I was like, that looks like Paul Walker and also not like Paul Walker. Like I knew it was him, but it didn't look like him. And also like there was like a weird kind of like, almost like a filter sort of, like it was kind of like, not grainy, but it was like weird. And then he washes it all out, takes contacts out. It's like, okay, there he is. He returned again.
Exactly.
The parkour and action scenes were great, but the fight scenes were way too choppy for me. I get the idea that it gives you the sense of speed, but it's so distracting when they literally put 5 cuts between a wind-up and a punch landing. I've heard people complain about that before, but never experienced it myself until now.
I kind of just attributed it to like all of these kind of action movies.
That's what distinguishes a good action movie from a not so good action movie. And I think I talked about this maybe on the Brick Mansions one, or maybe, no, I think it was probably on the Fast and Furious number 4 one, when we were talking to Cara about the jumpiness and the longer takes and the fewer cuts. It's when you have more faith in your stunt choreographer and in your actors, and you're able to do less cuts, adds authenticity. Like when you're too jumpy, too choppy, it doesn't feel as real, and it doesn't feel as authentic. And I feel like that's what I was sort of pointing at. And that's not exactly what Carol was talking about, because there's still a lot of cuts and everything, but I think it's a skill and it's a talent and it's, the ability to know when to cut or know when not to cut.
The stunt guys, like how good they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how many times you need to retake this scene or whatever. So like, yeah, I can see it.
And that's what happens when you have a movie like Brick Mansions, which has like a $25 million budget, and you have a movie like Fast and Furious 6, which has like a $200 million budget. Like there's more money and you can hire better people.
John Wick.
Yeah. There was actually, what was the movie? Oh, the new Nicolas Cage movie that Mike and I were talking about was directed by a guy who was mostly a stunt guy, and like the stunts in that weren't great. And we were like, why? Like, this feels like it should be better. And it's not, because we talked about, like Mike even brought up, like the John Wick movies and Atomic Blonde, which were like directed, they were made by the guys who were Keanu's stunt doubles his entire career. And so they know action, they're in there in the dirt, right? So, in the thick of it. So normally someone in that field goes to make a movie. The movie might not be great, but like the action should be good. You know what I mean? And like, but whatever. One comment on the Fast and Furious Minute from the last episode. I know you're planning on doing a commentary lap at some point, but one thing I remember from watching the first commentary is that Rob Cohen said he wanted the cars to feel like spaceships, going into hyperdrive because the technology behind them is so crazy compared to what we're used to dealing with in our daily drivers. That's where the very stylized stretching and blurring comes from.
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. I can see it.
Yeah. That's it for this week. I'm excited to see Ford v Ferrari. We've been seeing ads for it for what feels like a year, and I've only been kind of interested.
Same.
But now I have a reason to see it. Plus, we have our Draft House Season Pass, so it's free anyway. Until next time, stay furious, Wes.
Well, I'm glad you're going to go see Ford versus Ferrari with us. Thanks for writing in. Always.
Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, next episode, our next pit stop is going to be Ford v Ferrari. Get yourself to the theater one of the first 2 weekends it's out, and check it out. And it's getting great reviews. Like, it's got like over a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, so I don't know.
Damn. That's what I'm saying. The story's good. They have good actors in it. Like, this could have been really hit or miss. You know what I mean? We've seen these, like, ensemble cast, great movies that you're like, I don't know how about this. But, like, this one seems like they put, like, a lot into it. They were promoting it well, so I think it's going to come out good.
I'm excited. I'm seeing it as we record this. I think we're both seeing it in 3 days. I don't really know much about it. I know that we've talked about this, a lot about the story, and it's a good story, and
the story's cool.
The little details you share with me, I'm excited for it. But, it's just a couple days away. So thank you, Wes, for writing in. Next 2 emails, both from Ben Milliman. So first up, I'm going to do the very short email. It's the second one he sent. Subject line, Cardi B. He says Cardi B equals no knees to niece, question mark?
Ooh,
would be awesome.
That would be incredible.
What if, so like in our ever-growing narrative, right, they're making the movie, They find the podcast. They find out that we're obsessed with No Niece Denise.
That we wanted to be a part of it, because I really feel like some of the things in Hobbs and Shaw were just like literally winking at us sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it felt like somebody was listening.
Because Cardi B came in the 11th hour, right? Like she was like last minute, like just like, they had one day left to shoot and she shot. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was in our mythology. Like they're like, oh, we need to add someone. Like who could we get? Cardi. Okay. And they get Cardi and they write in a scene where it's just it. And what if the rumor of Paul coming back, of Brian coming back, is just for one scene with Roman, No Niece Denise, and Brian, and that's it. And they're just like, yo, I gotta come. He just like comes and he's like, oh shit,
like, damn,
she's here. And then
high
he
school
leaves.
again, just like prom, and then he walks out.
And he's not in the franchise ever again. He's just in one scene, and it's about No Niece Denise.
I love it.
That would be the best.
It's perfect. Like, why'd you bring her here, Brian? Just like walks out.
Always a female Brian. All right. Some exciting news here, Joe. Subject line from Ben, bigger family.
Ooh.
Hey guys, it's been a little while since I've sent an email. I've been working a lot of overtime. Some big news I wanted to share. Our family is going to be getting a little bigger. Linny is going to have a baby.
Oh, congrats, Linny. That's awesome.
She's in the second trimester, so we figured it was okay to start telling people. We don't know the sex of the baby yet, and we haven't picked a name. Any suggestions? I mean, Brian. This baby is named after the baby in my favorite movie franchise, and that baby is named after the star of the franchise, his character, who is now down in South America because the actor died.
Yeah.
Brian.
Exactly. Or just Bullet, maybe. But then his nickname could be Bullet. That would be so cool. We just totally gender assumed, by the way. Like, Dominica.
We have Joe 3, we have Joe Reed, but I feel like if you name your baby Joe... I think that baby's in the air. Regardless of gender, regardless of sex, that Joe would be in line to surpass Joe 2 when he inevitably dies before me and we continue the podcast.
Yeah, when my liver and kidneys give out. Yeah, exactly.
The good thing about Fast and Furious is that the names are like there's a lot of names that I feel like are sort of passable as like regular. Like Brian's not a rare weird name, but it could also be like in your head like it's really for, right? And then there's ones like Leticia or just
Rico
Dominic.
And Tego.
Yeah, but just you could go more overt with it. You could go Rita Ora Milliman, Suki Milliman,
whatever you want, man.
Twinkie Milliman.
Or Full House. Just call them Full House, like Brad from Full House.
Yeah.
You're like, fake Ronda Rousey is a great name.
Denise Milliman.
No Niece Denise.
I'm loving this lap with Cara. I like listening to someone experiencing this for the first time, and that instead of release order, you went with timeline makes it more interesting. I'm excited to see how she feels about Han when you finally get to 3.
We are too. That was like the whole premise of this. We want to see if it hits harder or softer or how it's gonna go.
One thing that we did not mention when we talked about 4 is that Han is in the very beginning. He's like, I think I'm going to go to Tokyo or whatever. Like, we did not bring it up. Cara did not bring it up. So I don't know if she...
No. It'll register.
Yes. So I'm just wondering if, like, I was curious if she was going to bring it up. She did not.
Well, because it doesn't really mean anything to her, right? Like, that's a nod to us, the audience, that had seen Tokyo Drift.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then he sends in a car picture that we will play in, I think, probably the Tokyo Drift episode. So perfectly timed.
Awesome.
I think we've got 3 car pictures, including this one. So thank you, Ben, for writing in.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats, man. That's awesome.
On little Milliman baby. Yeah, I think Rita Ora Milliman.
Cardi B Milliman now?
Yeah, it's like Homer J. Simpson where the J stands for J. It's Cardi B Milliman where the B stands for B. Cool. Well, that's all the email that we have. If you want to email in, family@cageclub.me, let us know that you're listening. Let us know your rankings. If you have your top 5 songs in the franchise, whatever you want to do, family@cageclub.me. Joe, I checked the reviews. We're still at 17 reviews, all 5 stars. All 17 ratings, all 5 stars, all the reviews there, still great and still wonderful. Thank you all so much. If you have not taken the time to review us, please do that. It helps with the algorithms, so on and so forth.
Yes, please, and thank you if you have.
All right, Joe, on the streets, I feel like there's been a bunch of news in the past week.
Like what?
So first off, there is a rumor that Vin put on Instagram a video of him and Michelle Rodriguez at a racetrack, and they're thinking, possibly, they don't know, this is just speculation, that it could be returning to the scene where Dom's father died.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. That's kind of a stretch, right? You see them at a racetrack. They could be at a racetrack for any reason. So I think that making that logical jump is kind of hard. Not that I don't say that it can't happen or didn't happen. I don't know how much I believe it yet. Like, I need more confirmation than Dom being at a racetrack, right? But didn't they say, like, oh, it's this racetrack, and he specifically mentions that racetrack?
Yeah, I think so. Like, this is basically just picked up by Cinema Blend. I think they were the only ones that really made the connection.
Connected the
So I'm not
dots.
sure. Like, other sites are kind of reporting that they made that speculation. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm still, like, in that weird kind of gray zone where, like, I don't want spoilers, but feel the need to sort of keep up to date. You know what I mean? Like, it's...
Yeah, we did this last time though, remember? And that was the thing, like we gave it like one trailer.
Yep.
I think we're gonna need to do like the first trailer.
Yep. Which should be soon. I mean, we keep saying it, but it's got to be soon.
Yeah, they wrapped up shooting a couple days ago. Remember we posted
That was on the news, yep. And also, related to that kind of sort of, as Hobbs and Shaw is now available on Blu-ray, I feel like there's been a lot of news and a lot of things coming up, special features and extra things from the Blu-ray, also interviews with, stunt coordinators and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that if you're just out there keeping an eye on, like, what's going on, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can, like, read and get sort of into Hobbs and Shaw a little bit more.
Yeah, there has been. What did you posted an article?
There's
that was,
a
like,
stunt
behind
coordinator
the
interview.
scenes,
Yeah.
The stunt coordinators, yeah.
When we get to the Hobbs and Shaw lap in 8 years.
God, yeah, the minutes.
Yeah.
Hobbs and Shaw minutes in 25 years.
Oh boy, yeah, for forever from now.
I know.
Rock the vote, Dwayne Johnson president. Are there... Don't
Any new news?
think so. There's no news there. And then I'm going to search The Rock president. Is The Rock running for president? I don't think so. There's only sort of news that we mentioned a couple episodes ago that he was going to be at UFC 244. So there's just sort of like recaps from that. But there's no new news about him. I mean, since we last recorded, Michael Bloomberg now running. But I mean, The Rock not running. So what can you do?
Isn't it? And we talked about this. It's a little late to the race at this point, right?
Who knows? But there's always time.
Who knows? We got nothing but time.
Nothing but time. Joe, the last thing we need to do before we take a break and bring in Cara, the Fast and Furious minute, a minute that has to be called for no other reason. Dude, I almost had you.
Here's what you want, right here. There you go. Raise the board, just game for it, you know what I mean?
My sister holds some money. Count it. You get my trophy. Hey, Monica. What's up, baby?
What's your problem, nigga? You didn't win.
Woo, girl! Fuck you then!
Was that fun?
What are you smiling about?
Dude, I almost had you.
You almost had me?
So finally, Joe, after 2.5-ish kind of frustrating blue bally minutes, we finally have one where, like, things happen, but there's dialogue, there's, like, progression, there's character
Yes.
moments, like, there's stuff to talk about.
There finally is like stuff to talk about other than like cars go fast.
In this minute, as you just heard, Dom collects his winning, picks up his quote-unquote trophy.
So we talked about this last time that we were doing the Fast and Furious trivia question, right?
Yep.
What is Dom's trophy for winning the race?
Oh.
And it would be too large,
Okay.
Letty,
25 grad.
25 grad, or Brian's car. Like, what's his real and then trophy in quotation marks for winning the race? There's 3 correct answers, but there's one, like, if you knew, you knew.
The idea that I have, and it's tied into that sort of, is, or the question I had was, who counts the money that Dom wins?
Counts or holds?
It's the same thing.
No.
No, because he says, my sister holds the money, he hands it to her and says, count it.
Oh, that's a pretty good one, too. But Hector was holding the money, and I would assume Hector counted the money.
I think that's basically him saying, like, I don't really trust Hector. Like, I trust Hector, but I don't really trust Hector. Like, I
Well,
trust
you should
Mia.
Just trust no one.
Yeah.
Only trust family.
Just like Fox Mulder said, trust no one. So we'll say Hector, we'll say Jesse, we'll say Mia, and we'll say
Letty.
Vince.
No, Letty?
Who counts the money?
Yeah, that would be like a more tricky answer, right?
Okay, so
I mean, we're not trying to make
say
these impossible, but just tricky.
I'll say Hector, Mia, Letty, or no one. We can always come back to it, or we can have multiple questions, whatever. Also,
Yeah.
in this minute, Brian shows up at the finish line, grinning from ear to ear. Jesse opens up Brian's hood, billows out smoke and steam, and everybody goes nuts. And then we have the iconic, dude, I almost had you. You almost had me.
And it cuts.
And it cuts.
I would like to take a little bow here that I assumed that it would be cut in half. I said I think it's gonna run a little long. We have to have them pull up and stuff. That we're not gonna get the "you never had me, you never had your car."
Perfect cut. It's also like in between lines. It's beautiful. Now the exciting thing though, Joe, we have another phone number for me to call.
Okay.
And I am
so
to our listeners, I am a little worried because Joe said don't Google it. So I don't know what I'm about to call. In the movie, it's an auto service place. But I don't know what I'm actually calling, and the fact that Joe warned me makes me worried.
Dom is sitting there, in front of his car, and the shots of like when he picks up Letty and stuff like that. In the background, they're standing in front of Javier's Auto Service, okay? We knew where UAS Wheels and Tires were, right? It's in Hawthorne, California.
Mm-hmm.
I went to look for Javier's Auto Service, and there is a Javier's Auto Service in Hawthorne, California. I'm taking a wild guess it's probably this Javier. Except that if you look at where Javier's Auto Service is now, the building seems a little different. It kind of looks like, I put it in the document, I linked to like the Google. It looks like the building that, remember when I mentioned there was a van behind the fence?
Yeah.
So it looks like that is the building that it's in. And I don't know if that's the same building they were shooting in front of then because the building looks different. I can't really pinpoint if it's the same thing or not. And I Google Maps it, check this out, from the UAS tire shop, and it's about 12 miles away.
Huh. Okay, so not close.
So it's not like, or was it 12 minutes or 12? It's like, it's not close. It's like not like on the same street.
Right.
There's like a turn and like, some other stuff. So like, I could have seen if it was like, next door to it, right? That's what I was trying to figure out, like how close it actually was. Like, was it down the street? Could we say that this is at the end of the quarter mile? But like, no, it's like on the other side of Hawthorne. Javier's Auto Service with parking in the rear has a phone number on it.
So you're saying that this is a different number. This is not Javier's.
So when I found Javier's, there were signs on that building, and I instantly noticed that there's huge phone numbers on that one, and the phone number is different than this phone number. So I was like, I wonder if this phone number works, just for my curiosity. And I think this is still an active phone number, and I would like you to call it.
All right. I'm going to ask, so if it's not Javier's, I'm going to ask if it is Javier's, and then I'm going to go into the whole, did you know that we're going to find out.
Phone numbers in the Fast and Furious. Yeah.
Got butterflies. Here we go.
Thank you for calling TJ Maxx in Hawthorne, California. Thank you for calling TJ Maxx. For store hours, press 1. For directions, press 2. For employment opportunities, press 3. To speak with a store associate, press 4. Thank you for calling TJ Maxx in Hawthorne. Maria speaking. How can I help you?
Hi, is this Javier's Auto Service?
No, this is TJ Maxx. You got the wrong number.
Oh, because I just saw a sign with this phone number on it with Javier's Auto Service. I don't know if you know, like.
You got the wrong number.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. She had no interest in playing my games.
She wasn't putting up with any of your bullshit.
So
Not
yeah,
at
so
all.
TJ Maxx. Okay. I mean, I don't know if I've said it on here. I feel like I said it on a podcast, and I don't know which other podcast would be more likely than this one. But my phone number, my cell phone number, is on a sign for a yacht club down the shore.
What?
As far as I can tell, and I haven't seen the sign. I've actually been outside the yacht club, but I've seen the sign. Like I think, if I remember right, it's a different area code, but the last 7 digits are the same. So I'm thinking possibly, there's a sign somewhere with either the wrong area code or no area code. And people just assign, because like local businesses, they won't have an area code because you just know.
Like Pittsburgh's 412,
Yes.
so I know that it's 412, even if my dad will give phone numbers still only 7 digits because, he's from the era where it's like, oh, you're in Pittsburgh, so everything's 412.
So I'm assuming it's either the wrong area code or no area code, and people who have the same area code as my phone number assign my area code to the back 7 or whatever. But like I get it's slowed down in recent years, but it used to be like once or twice a week for like the first like month or like sort of I think like March, April, May,
voting
June,
season.
They're like, I want to get a slip, and I'm just like, I don't like I on the one hand I kind of wanted to
should
learn.
sell them.
Yeah, I wanted to
Sell them a
learn the
slip.
lingo so I could like fuck with people, but I'm just like, you got the wrong phone number. But then people get like really indignant. They're like, no, I'm calling the right number. I'm like, no, this is a private cell. Like, I'm not trying to turn away business. This is a cell phone. Stop it.
I'm not the shittiest yacht club ever, I promise.
Oy
And
vey.
don't call this number again. Yeah, like try a different area
TLDR,
code.
TJ Maxx did not want to play my games.
So I googled the number, and it was like TJ Maxx, Hawthorne, California. And I was like, oh shit, it's a TJ Maxx now. That's why I was like, don't Google the number. I didn't want to ruin that surprise. But at the same time, it was harmless. So
Yeah, and I didn't lie. I said I saw it on a sign that for Javier's
Yes.
Auto Service.
Is this hot? She was just like, no.
No.
Like, just instantly. Just,
What I really wanted to
it's
ask her, and she would not
Javier's.
entertain it, is like, do you know how long you've had this phone number?
Oh.
But
Yeah.
I couldn't even
maybe,
get that out.
Maybe she thought you were being impolite because she sounded to me Spanish on the phone. And she thought you were making like a joke about Javier's Auto Service.
No,
in
I don't.
which case that would be very insensitive.
That's like
But-
that's a very in-depth like. Okay, I'm gonna call. Here's a plan. All right, boys, you ready for this one? I'm gonna call the front desk at TJ Maxx. I'm gonna
get a thing.
instantly assess the ethnicity of the person on the phone via their accent. Then going to instantly think of a stereotypical name for that people, a stereotypical place of business
Garage,
that kind of person
yeah.
would employ, and I'm gonna do
That's
it all in real time.
There's a whole YouTube channel of prank phone calls that are exactly that.
But I'm not good at that.
I know, but I'm saying like maybe they have a long history of getting prank phone called by people that like to explore this, and that's very mean.
All right, so 2 things out there for you to do. Number 1, send a note to your creator, your favorite creators. Let them know that you appreciate their work. Number 2, don't prank phone call TJ Maxx.
Yeah. Yeah, because she was pissed. Like, she wasn't having a good day.
No, it's only 3:45
And we
out
weren't
there.
even prank
Like
phone
it's
calling.
early. I mean, sorry,
Maybe
TJ
she
Maxx.
just got a... You know what? You said it's 3:45. She's probably at the end of her shift. I bet she changes at 4.
Oh.
So it was like the last, like, call before 4. So she was like, I'm not fucking putting up with this.
Wouldn't you
Like,
think
got
though? Like, I guess
5.
it depends on the day, but wouldn't you think to some extent you would be like, yeah, I got 10 minutes to kill. This is the end of my shift. Like, let's just.
Nah. She's been doing returns all day. She is livid.
And holiday season right around the corner.
I know. She knows it's just going to get worse. She didn't want to be there.
Sorry,
I
TJ.
get it. Sorry, TJ.
Any other thing you want to talk about with Dude, I Almost Had You, minute 22?
No, I got some other signs and stuff, but I put them in there. The only cars we see in this are the ones we've already seen. You know, you see Brian, you see Dom's,
Yep.
you see the Civic. Nothing super crazy.
And I don't think there's any really kind of, like, we have a section on here. So if you are a patron over at patreon.com/2fast2forever, you can have access to the Fast and Furious Minute document, and you can see the notable moments/trivia, and that's just kind of like cool things here or there, like, introductions
know
of
the
characters.
scene, though.
And there's nothing here, like, this is where the iconic line comes from, but other than that, it's not really a lot.
No, I agree.
Cool. So, Joe, let's take a quick break. Let us hear that sweet, sweet interlude that Wes made for us.
Ooh,
and let's bring in
you.
Cara to go down to Brazil, sit atop our perch once again for the 5th time, atop the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de
Yes.
Janeiro.
Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. This is episode number 57, Fast 5, the one with the safes. This episode is brought to you by Ashworth College Locksmith School. Security is a lucrative business, and locksmiths offer a practical skill to help protect homes and businesses. The courses at Ashworth College teach you the tools of the trade, and as few as 4 months, earn your diploma, and you'll be prepped to take the Associated Locksmith of America Fundamental Locksmith exam.
Well, thank you, Ashworth College. With us tonight, as we mentioned before the break, we have back for the 4th time, for the 5th film, Miss Cara Gael O'Regan. Hello, Cara.
Hello. So, you guys are probably going to be like a little bit mad at me.
Why?
I listened to the last episode.
Of us?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
No, it's not fine because I was like...
Oh, the intro.
You mentioned the spoiler, and I said, I'm going to edit the spoiler out. You like, Cara doesn't listen to this.
Oh,
Yeah,
damn it.
that's
Sorry.
exactly what you said.
Why did you do that?
Listen, it was election day morning. I was really tired. I was crying a little bit while researching the candidates in my local election, just
Okay.
crying about the state of things. And then I looked at my podcast feed and I was like, "Oh, this will cheer me up." So I put it on.
Oh, God. You ruined the whole big surprise.
I know, I'm so
The
sorry.
whole reason we're doing this out of order.
The entire reasoning.
I do want to say, though, I should have cut it out, but Joe, you were like, no, she doesn't listen to the beginning, it's going to be fine. And you even said it
I was
intentionally
confident. I was
2
very
or 3 other
confident.
times. You're like, oh, the one where blank blah blank.
Yes.
Well,
you don't
we'll
know
see you next
how
time on Too Fast, Too Forever.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, so why don't, like, just so that I don't, what do you know now?
I know that a certain character dies.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
that's all I know. I was also like, I was gonna tell you like immediately, and then I was like, maybe I'll forget. I didn't forget though.
No, you're not going to now because it was like it was the forbidden fruit. It was like sorry.
No, don't be, I mean, yeah, actually, you should be sorry, because I wanted to keep it spoiler-free,
I'm
and
so
you guilted me
sorry.
into...
I've done such a good job of being spoiler free otherwise, but I was happy to hear you had fun in Philadelphia and got to see Jenny Lewis.
Well, there's really only, like, one franchise spoiler, kind of, and, like, because we didn't tell you that Letty was not dead when we
No,
spoke
but
about
I
that.
knew that Letty wasn't dead. In my
Well.
heart of hearts, I refused to believe it.
Yeah, but
We
I
never
mean,
saw
like,
the body,
also,
man.
Also, there's like a bunch of other things that are gonna happen that are fun and wacky too. So it's like
Sure, yes. And in the words of our fellow podcaster, April Wolf, it's not what happens, it's how it happens. So,
You know, whether you win by a CM or a KM, winning is winning.
What was that from? Where did we just read that?
It was the Twitter,
tweet,
the
yeah.
Google Translate.
That's
yeah,
right.
that.
Okay.
Okay, well, so we are here now talking about Fast Five down in Rio de Janeiro. So now, Cara, we mentioned that we teased in the opening that you had mentioned to us that you really like this movie. Do you like this more? The big question: do you like this more than Los Bandoleros?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, there's just more to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I had more fun watching this one.
This is where we hit, like, we're starting to hit a nice fun stride, right? And I think much like Joey was saying last time we were talking about it, I think when we did our rankings at the end of the last lap, 5 is so much fun. And it keeps growing in its funness level for me. So I'm curious to hear what you think about how 5 and 6 compare to each other.
I was telling Joe that as I was counting down, I was figuring out my favorite movies of the decade. This and 6 are both in there, and for a while I kept saying that 6 was my favorite because I think 6 is bigger and crazier, and like there's literally more people and there's more things going on. But I think this one is tighter, and I think it's, you know, more concise, and I think it's more fun pretty much across the board, unless you are one of those people who really loves the early car focus and the early car movies. These two are kind of widely considered the two best ones, this one and the next one.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, Cara, you are going to you've experienced one of the great ones, and then you're going to have one of the great ones next time too. So you are really in the heart of the best part of the Fast and Furious franchise right now. So I hope you are savoring every moment of it.
Oh, I am.
And we've never really heard of anybody that likes 5 but hates 6, right? Like if you like 1, they're essentially like a two-parter.
Well, I haven't hated any of them. Yeah,
I know, but I'm saying,
I
like,
didn't like some of them more, but
If this was like a really fun one for you, like 5 and 6 are like neck and neck, like
cool. Hard to imagine that 6 could be crazier than this one, but
Oh.
I'm open to it.
Yeah.
it's way crazier. Like
You will see. You will see.
not even close. Like it's
So to kick off our conversation, let us play the game that's sweeping the nation, Liam Underwood's That's So Brian. If you have to pick a moment in this movie that best articulates who Brian O'Connor is, and I do want to say before we play the game, that I feel like for the first time, and this is only I guess it's the fourth movie. I guess every movie that we've watched so far, because we skipped Tokyo Drift, has Brian in it, and this is definitely a different Brian. He's a calmer Brian.
yes.
He's a more laid-back Brian, even before he knows that Mia is pregnant.
He got that
I
dad
feel like
juice.
he's more at ease. And I wonder, Cara, I'm going to ask you first, two-part, what's the most Brian moment in the movie, and do you like this Brian more? At the very least, you agree that he's a different kind of Brian than he has been.
I don't know about that.
All right.
I still hate Brian. I think he's the worst character in all of these movies.
You're gonna get some dissenters from that one, but whew.
All right.
okay.
I think he sucks.
You're allowed to. That's totally fine. I mean, there's a character for you in here. So if it's not Brian, you're gonna find somebody that you like.
I like literally everyone else. Except for The Rock. Fuck The Rock. He sucks.
God, so much dissent. Okay.
Whatever. I'll fight anyone I have to.
Well, don't worry. He's only mainly in 6 and a little bit in 7 and mainly in 8 and then the star of Hobbs and Shaw. So you've
Yeah,
only got most of him left.
Cool. Sounds great.
His shirts get
He's not
tighter
going
too.
anywhere.
So the most Brian thing he does, I actually wrote this down.
Yes.
During the crazy safe chase, which goes on for like, what, 30 minutes?
It's a
very
long time.
Yeah.
It's not 30, but yeah, it's a while.
He like drives head on. head on into a couple motorcycles, and like all along the way is just like giggling and yelling, yeah, at all the destruction that he's causing. Like, so as much fun as I had watching this and watching the other movies, but for some reason, particularly in this one, I cannot stop thinking about all of like the grave bodily harm that they are causing to so many people in
Civilian
this universe.
casualties. Yeah, we've hit the point in the movies where like there's a lot of civilian casualties and we just like glaze over them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kill a lot of random strangers all the
A
time.
lot of random strangers.
Not exactly the same thing, but definitely related. This is definitely the most brutally violent. Like The Rock, like Hobbs is just snapping necks. And we've talked about that before, but like it's a level of violence both inadvertent to passersby, but also direct to antagonists that is kind of unparalleled. Like there have been gunfire, like gunfights in previous movies, but this is like physical, hand-to-hand, brutal combat.
Yes.
To a level that we have not seen before. So, boy, there is a lot going on in this movie, violence-wise.
True.
Joe, what do you have? Do you have a
Yes.
moment for your pick for That's So Brian?
Absolutely. The most Brian moment of this entire movie for me,
I wonder if we're going to match you, because I have three, but there's one that I have very clearly as my number one.
they come back from the race and Brian
Yep.
high fives Roman
Yep.
and it's like,
Yep.
oh yeah, I beat him. And everybody's like, dude, he let you
Yeah,
win.
I owned you,
Yeah,
you.
and you're like, Brian, you're such a clown that you didn't even realize that Dom let you win. Like, it's such a Buster move to just like pretend like you won.
That was my number one.
Yeah, that's my most Brian moment of the movie. And it's funny, we didn't even talk about it.
What I love about that scene is that Roman celebrates with Brian. He's like, yeah, my boy. And then Han's like, told you didn't see it. And then Roman's like, yeah, I can't, I gotta stop this now. I gotta make fun of you now, man. But like, know that I'm with you, that I'm celebrating your victory, but also at the same time, he let up on the throttle. So
If you were gonna make fun of your boy, you'd have been like, haha, and like high-fived him and then be like, psych, or like something like that. So like, that was clearly shot in two different scenes. He's like, okay, celebrate Brian's win. And then they're like, but you knew about it. And he's like, oh, fuck, okay. And they like just didn't reshoot the first one.
no, I think it's more like he's just excited that his friend's excited, and then he realized, oh right, he didn't actually win.
Yeah, that's
'Cause it's in the
pretty
same
Roman.
shot.
No, there's a cut in between them, I think.
The two other ones that I wrote down, number one is when they are jacking the truck or jacking the train, and then they fall off into the water. They jump off into the water.
Which they absolutely would have broken their legs falling from that height at that speed. Just
Of course.
had to put that
Of
out there.
But Brian's like, I had to make a call. And Dom goes, had to make a call, huh, O'Connor? Or shitty call, O'Connor, shitty call. It's not necessarily his fault. We've talked a lot about how, like, he could have made a hard right or braked, or he could have probably avoided that fall, the plunge into the water.
Maybe.
But I feel like that's just like had to make a call. Like, what do you want me to do? It's like, well, make a better call.
Yeah.
The other one, it's not a Brian moment, though, actually.
It's a Brian moment, but somebody else does it?
I think so.
Okay.
It's Vince when he says the quote is, you never listen to me, not when I told you he was a cop, not now, you never trust me, and look where it's gotten us, look at our family now, I can't go home, your sister's stuck in this life, where's Letty, Dom, where's Letty? And I felt like that's just like it's all about me, kind of. And I feel like that's a very Brian type of reaction to have. Even though later in the movie, when they cast Vince out, they're like, get out of here. You put me in danger. I know that you didn't know, but like your actions could have led to her dying. Get out of here. Then later he saves her life. And Dom just like, hey, you hungry? And welcomes him back in with open arms. Given the nature of that 180 and that bond that there's always room for family, for Vince to be so angry and petty and selfish just feels like a very Brian thing for him to say and do. He isn't really, that
Yeah, I get
sentiment kind of felt like a Brian thing.
I can see it. It's a Brian
I don't know. I
moment.
feel like he is considering too many other people in that situation.
He's not selfish enough to be Brian, but also fair. But Brian does it sometimes too. He's like, well, what about, all these other things? And you're like, but it's just how it affects you, Brian. You're just worried about yourself anyways.
Comparing this to the first one again, I was thinking as we watched this that when we do the Fast and Furious Minute, I wonder, we've had so many people write in and say that when they are hearing the minute, they can see what's going on. I wonder, there's certain things, like the This Is Brazil scene,
Yes.
and other scenes in this movie that like you can be put right into that scene, exactly what you're looking at. But there's a lot of things here, you're not going to really have a sense. And I don't know if it's just because people have watched the first one so much more, probably, than they watched this one. It's literally less of a movie, and so you just remember each of it more because there's actually less to remember, or because the iconic images are just burned into your brain. But I'm very curious to to hear from people down the, like, way down the line, if when we get to these later movies, if they know in their minds what they're listening to, or if it's not as clear as it is in the early movies. Because I feel like I like these movies better, but I don't know if they are necessarily,
as
to use Brian's word, iconic as the early movies.
Even when I'm watching them, there's just because they're so long, I don't think my brain can process all of it. So there's like definitely parts still that I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that they like, are hanging out and like like the barbecuing in the middle with Rico and Tego, right? Like, I'm gonna buy you cooking lessons. Like, I forget about that until it happens every time.
I love those two guys. They're great.
They're the best. They are both musicians. They're the ones who, I mean, they were in Los Bandoleros. They sang, and they're in the very beginning of Fast and Furious 4. They sing that Bandoleros song. Like, they're both musicians. They are mainly musicians. I actually haven't looked too much, but I think they're mostly probably known for these in terms of acting.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, they definitely are.
Cara, what did you love about this movie? This is probably your favorite one so far. What do you love about Fast Five? Is this now, are we at a point where you feel like, yes, I'm glad that I'm here on this lap?
Oh, I've been glad that I've been here on this lap this whole time.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
good.
having a great time. The RC car sequence, I think that's so fun.
To when Tyrese like drops the thing into the evidence locker.
Yeah, and like actually like the whole like specialists doing their like each one of them does their like very specific thing that they're good at. Like I love that in general, but like especially the RC car part.
Yeah, that's always a nice thing. I do like that. Joey, is this the only one that we get an RC car in?
I think so.
Which
I'm,
is
again,
a real missed
sort of,
opportunity.
I know.
I'm thinking again because these movies so much have, we've talked about it before, have so much crossover with the Ocean's movies, and there's an RC car race where they race an RC monster truck against an actual monster truck, and then the monster truck runs over the RC truck.
Yes.
And so that's in my brain too, but I think this is the only one with an RC truck.
Yeah, I think that it's always a good opportunity for them to add more stuff into it. And like, I'm really surprised that they don't do like an Inception thing where they kind of like add the toys into the movie. Besides, like, we see Mini Brian Jack have a die cast at one point, but like, I'm surprised they don't put more toys in the movies for you to be able to buy after the movie comes out.
Yeah, another missed opportunity.
Yeah, like, I want them to like, like somebody has like why can't we buy that RC car? Like, you can buy like Fast and Furious RC cars, but like you can't buy like the one that they're driving in the thing with like a fucking scope on it. Like, kind of like when they had the Walkman from like Home Alone, like the recorder thing. Like, I want like that kind of product placement.
Talk Boy.
The Talk Boy. Yes, exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
What else about this movie, Cara, do you love? Like, character developments, scenes, moments, lines?
Well, this is part of that whole sequence. Love the shit explosion. Hilarious.
The what? Yes,
okay.
The toilet blow up.
I also really like the scene between Dom and Brian where they're like talking about their dads.
Yes.
I found that very touching.
So there is news that we talked about in the top of the show that there is a rumor. It's not news as much as a rumor that maybe in Fast and Furious 9 they might be headed back to, and this is I think he talked about in the first movie, but again here ties in, that they might go back to the racetrack where Dom's father died. And so this is very timely sort of scene to see, because it seems like they might be heading back there in the next movie.
And because we're doing the Brian O'Connor lap and we did the Brian O'Connor wiki, I forget that like until this point we haven't heard anything about Brian's dad, but that's the scene where Brian's like, I didn't really have a dad that you like anybody around or something like that. Dom talks about how important his dad was to him. That's the whole, Brian doesn't have a dad thing that we were reading about.
I think there's also, and we talked about this in the opening when we were talking about Wes's email in about cops becoming detectives and so on and so forth, and what Brian's actual career trajectory is in this movie. And we talked about this before because I was like, I don't understand. Tej is like, when we get this money, I'm going to open a garage. And Roman's like, you're going to get a day job. And I was like, well, didn't he already have a garage in Miami? But I feel like when 4 happened and rebooted the franchise, essentially, 2 no longer was canon, sort of. And so I think that whatever Tej's backstory is now, it's not what we saw in 2.
But no, I think it is. I think that he was just like, I want like a wholesome garage, because he had like a tuner garage, remember? Like, he's like trying to hustle. He was trying to make money. The point that he says here is that he wants a garage that won't rip people off and like help the common folk. So I think that his just like maturity has changed, and he was saying he wants an altruistic garage.
But he's not, I mean, he is saying that he wants to take care of the people, but he's not just saying like, I want a new garage. He's just like, I want a garage. So I wonder if, it's just the word choice, and I feel like this is, again...
That's an inflection thing, like, I want a garage that helps people, or like, I want a garage that helps people.
So you got a little more than $10, $11 million coming. What you gonna do with your money?
Me?
Yeah.
Actually, man, I've been thinking about opening up a garage back home.
place where people can bring their cars and not get completely ripped off. You know what I mean?
I think it's just more proof, sort of, that a lot of 2 doesn't, because when we talked
No,
about
because
when we did the diagnostics for Brian, the relationship, the backstory between him and Roman was kind of retrofitted or changed after the fact too. And I think this is just more proof that not that 2 doesn't matter. Obviously, Eva Mendes is in the credit scene here. But like, it's not like that no longer exists. But I think that a lot of the story developments, and this is again another example, things aren't necessarily what they were. Like the characters are still the characters.
I disagree.
But it's not what we saw.
Because Brian specifically says when he introduces Tyrese, he's like, "This is that dude that I told you about from Miami. We did that job together." He's like reaffirming that 2 existed.
I was gonna say that you guys are taking this entirely too seriously, and then I remembered that you have a podcast where you're just rewatching these movies.
That's the whole point of this. Yeah. The entire
Come on,
point.
Cara, you know that.
I do know that.
I do think that it's just you're just picking on the inflection of Tej's A Garage. But that's my take on it. We'll see what if you have thoughts. family@cageclub.me.
I feel like with all of that money that he has, like at the end of the movie, when he actually has opened that garage, he could get a nicer pair of custom coveralls. It really just looks like he just ironed a patch on there.
I think that's kind of the shtick of it, though, right? Like, you want to look like you don't have... I mean, you stole $11 million. You didn't, like, earn $11 million. So, like, you're trying to be low-key, right?
Sure.
With this Koenigsegg that you just...
Yeah, with one of 4 cars in the world. Exactly. As low-key as you can be with a multi-million-dollar car.
Exactly.
One thing that we talked about when we asked you, Cara, when we quizzed you last time, do you know Gal Gadot's name? And you said no. And we said, trick question, she does not have a name in this movie. Wes had written in, said that like her name is not said in this movie. I think that's still true. However,
I don't think I heard her name in this movie.
When Hobbs has his men run a cross-check between known associates of Dominic Toretto entering Brazil via air, land, or sea, or whatever, and they shows all the things on the screen, Giselle Yashar is on screen. Like, you see her name on screen.
Hear it.
She's named.
Okay.
So Wes was
right
and not right, because he said that she's not, her name is not said, which is true, but she is named in this movie. That she has, her character has a name. And I know that that's kind of, it's again, not great for the woman, but I feel like a lot of the characters in this movie, their name is maybe said once, or not at all. Aside from Brian and Dom and Mia, like, kind of
Vince.
everyone is just like, we know these people. We don't need to waste precious seconds by saying their name once or twice in a movie.
But they do say Vince's name a ton on that note.
I think it's because it says farewell.
Yeah, they're like, Dom's like, Vince is here? Come on, Vince. Let's go, Vince. And he's like, Vince, don't make me yell at you. And, like, he's the only one that gets named over and over again. Like, I think that they're trying to remind you that he was a character before and just, like, triggering it in your brain. Like, Vince, has he been in these before?
Because, again, like, Cara, did you remember him from the first one?
Oh, I didn't. I remembered his character archetype, you know?
Okay.
And then I was like, I guess that's the same guy. Okay. But, like, you know, I'm not great with remembering faces or names.
No, because I think that kind of proves the point, is that you just saw the first movie, 8 or 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago or whatever.
Saw it once 10 years ago.
Unless you're the diehard fan who remembers everything and has seen that first movie a bunch, you might not remember Vince. And so I feel like saying his name a lot, reestablishing both who he is, his connection to the family, I think helps you, even if you're not sure exactly who it is. But him, again, like Cara, you were saying last time, like, why is Brian called a Buster? Him saying Buster here, I think it's like, hey, remember this guy from the first movie?
They're trying every clue that they can give you without being like, he's the fucking guy from before. Like, with the neon sign.
So I think that's probably why they say his name so much, aside from the fact that he does die in this movie. He's the kind of character that we want to see in these new movies where, like, we want, for instance, Carter Verone or whoever to come back, or Twinkie to come back, but, like, people who aren't like us, or people who, like, aren't, like, the diehard listeners to the podcast, probably won't remember who these people are.
Yeah, that's like Sean's appearance is whatever, so...
Who's Sean?
Exactly, never mind.
You will know him from Tokyo Drift. I mean, a movie that you now know too much about, but I just neither
want
here nor
Men
there.
in Blacker.
I want a Men in Black myself for many things.
Well, I mean, we're all to blame. I should have used beep technology. You should not have listened. Joe should not have outwardly spoiled it multiple times. Like, I cut out one or two, too. He's just like, oh, yeah, the one where Han dies. It's like, well, God damn it, guy. Like, relax. Oh, I do want to say, and I want to get your take on this, Cara. This is the longest movie by far. This is an extra half an hour of movie, essentially.
Yes.
But I do really like the first 40 minutes of this movie feel... I think we've talked about this before, maybe the first lap. Feel intimate in a way that I don't usually remember. Like, it's basically just 3 characters. Like there's a heist here or there, there's escaping from things, but it's just really Dom, Brian, and Mia doing their thing. And I want to get your take. Like, did you like that, or did you like it more when everybody, like the sort of the extended family, came in? Did you feel the difference, the dichotomy of those two types of halves of the movie?
I didn't notice it. I don't know. I kind of like when everyone gets together. You got to have them not there first to have them all coalesce later,
Sure.
Yes.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. It makes the coming together much more great than if we just start out with everyone. Which is weird because in 4 we actually kind of have the opposite thing, right? Like we start out with everyone and we kind of split down. That's an interesting thing that they did it the complete opposite way this time, because we start with the iguana, everybody stealing the gas, and then we cut back and it's like Han drifts off, Rika and Tego bounce, everybody kind of splits up.
So now, Kara, I've got to ask, the fans are demanding it. What did you think? Do you have any thoughts on the fashion in this movie?
I think nothing is ever going to live up to that first movie. That really just knocked
it's a time
my
capsule.
socks off. Yeah. I enjoyed the Brazilian flavor of the outfits in this. Like when they go to that car party, there are women walking around in dresses that literally do not cover their asses. Like half of their butt cheeks are hanging out.
True.
Just enjoyed that to no end.
There's
Then there's a lot of
butts.
short denim shorts with wide brown belts, which I feel like are very 2011.
Now, is that a chunky belt? Am I using chunky right here or no?
No, again, chunky is going to have more depth to it, whereas these are just the wide, flat brown belts. Mia, after she tells everyone she's pregnant, is wearing one of those with a plaid shirt tied up, and you can still see her hip bones. And I'm like, come on, you're pregnant. What's happening?
They give her a very fake belly bump very shortly, because she definitely wasn't pregnant, right, Joey? Didn't we discover that?
I mean, I'm gonna look that back up. I did remember. I don't know if we've ever talked about it. I am stunned that she did not have a miscarriage while jumping through the favelas. They jump off a roof and through another roof, and then she's just fine.
Miscarriages are very common. They happen for all sorts of reasons.
True.
Of course.
And pregnant women are not as delicate as we treat them necessarily.
Also true.
So,
there's two sides to that coin. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's also the automancer element of all of this, right? They are all powered up by just being close to cars. They're not even
being with
they're not
family.
even scratched up. They just are able to survive whatever.
Yeah.
This one felt like more of a celebration of all sorts of vehicles. There's a train. There's a weird little dune buggy. There's some motorcycles in this one. It's not just cars. It's all sorts of vehicles. Maybe that's true of all of these movies now that I'm thinking about it.
Also, Joe, I'm not sure what you are talking about in terms of Jordana Brewster, because she has 2 children, but they were both via surrogate. So she's never actually...
Oh, okay, see?
She's never been pregnant.
Makes sense. So I knew she had kids, so I was I thought she had was pregnant during the thing of one of these. She had a newborn or a very small child after one of these. I didn't connect or know that she never carried them herself.
I don't remember even talking about that. I remember talking about the fuzzy and hazy chronology of when someone else not going to spoil anything else, when someone else is, and what actually, you know what I mean?
Going down,
the
how
timeline
long was
of all
it?
that.
9 months. Yeah, I remember this too.
I remember talking about that, but I don't remember actually talking about actors being pregnant.
I feel like I just I was reading it or looking at her Instagram or something and saw the kid, so I was just assuming that she had to be pregnant during one of these.
It seems like, and maybe the Instagram is a different thing, but there's not a lot of information out there about her children. I think she kind of keeps them out of the public eye.
I think that was another thing that she said. I think that it was in an interview. She's I keep my kids out of I don't know. No, we read all of these fucking Fast and Furious behind the scenes interviews.
It's been killing me that I can't do that.
I'm sorry.
I just messaged Jordan. I just said, Kara, spoil the surprise. And she said, no. And then in all capital letters, no. She said, I was so waiting for the reveal. So.
Same.
I'm so sorry. I've disappointed everyone. Don't worry. No one's more disappointed in me than myself.
Well,
Possibly
we're going to have
my
to do it in
parents.
2 laps for Nico and Kevo. We're going to do the same thing, and we're going to have them.
Ban
I feel like I wanted your specific... It's okay.
so
It's okay.
sorry.
Not going to dwell on it. Not going to dwell on
You
it.
just
It's
have to let
okay.
it go, man. We can't undo it. So you didn't ask Kara rapid fire questions this time. There's one specific to this movie.
Let me get my point out and then I can do this. I want to know what the trajectory is from the end of 4 to 5, where Giselle goes from being one of Braga's lieutenants to kind of being sort of like a free agent of sorts and then also part of the family. Because I feel like by the end of 4, Dom has saved her life and she's sort of loyal to Dom in that regard. Braga is captured or killed. I don't remember what happened to Braga at the end of 4. After the end of 4, like, I want to know in those 2 years or so what she did. Like, we want very desperately the Han and Giselle trilogy in the middle somewhere here, right?
Yes.
We
But-
need like a
Something
Los
like that.
Galdoleros.
They're both so
Los
hot. Like,
Bandoleros?
put them in a movie together. Come on.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, good.
I think because we know so little about Giselle, the fact that she's Gal Gadot, she's like infinitely interesting, and I want to know
Yes.
what happened to her, how she went from essentially being evil to sort of neutral evil, the shades of gray sort of. I think like that's fascinating to me because she goes from being on the other side of things, like literally the enemy, to now being one of the first calls that Dom makes, and I just think that's I want to know what happened, how that happened.
She also goes from driving a car to driving a motorcycle. Why?
Yeah, she likes
Although I'm
motorcycles,
really into
man.
her driving a motorcycle. I like it.
Same. Because she's Mossad, you know? So she like knows all the things.
All right, so Cara, Joe mentioned this. We did not do the either or questions at the top of the episode. There is at least one. I think there's just the one that we're going to do this time.
Yes.
At the end of this movie, you, me, and Joe steal the safe, right? We each get $11 million.
Yep.
Hell
We go-
fucking yeah.
We go to Monaco. We go to AC. We go to Vegas. We go anywhere in the world that we want to go.
Oh, quick question before you proceed.
Yes.
Where did Brian and Mia wind up? I feel like they didn't put that on the screen. Like, right?
You'll
Because
see.
Tej is in Goa, Han and What's-Her-Face
You'll
are
see.
in Germany. Oh, okay. So I'm supposed to not know.
I mean,
Well, I
you
think
can
they're
assume
they're in
that
a country
they're-
with no extradition.
Yeah.
And I think
And
they're
together.
just near Dom and Elena.
And that's
Which
it.
is-
Like, that's all you need to
okay.
know. It's like family.
Okay.
They're family together somewhere hiding out.
It's just like, why would they tell us where the other ones are and not them? They like go through the list of non-extradition places multiple times, you know?
I think that they were just like waiting to start, like, to pick a place to start the next movie.
Okay.
Because
that's
it's like the
fair.
first
Yeah.
thing you see
Yeah.
in the next movie, right? Like, you're gonna
They're
find out that.
it's just like a tropical location. Like it's just sort of I think supposed to be paradise. Like wherever they are safe and they are in a place with no extradition. Like they are
Home is where
secure until they want to
Maybe
do
they're
one
all
more job.
dead.
Oh, home
Very
is
possible.
where you are.
What are you, the Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros?
Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to get to.
So now, Cara, we each have $11 million. We go to a gambling mecca of the world. We go to the roulette table. You're going to bet it all. Are you betting it all on red or are you betting it all on black?
Black, baby.
Is there any reason?
Was it from Blade or is it Passenger 57 where Wesley Snipes says bet it all on black?
I forget.
I don't think.
Because you
Wait.
just watched Blade. You and
Yeah.
Jordan talked about Blade on a Wistful.
Yeah.
I think it's Passenger 57. I don't think it's Blade. You might remember better than I do because you just watched that movie.
That doesn't mean anything.
I know. I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, even though I knew what your answer was. Your reply to that was going to be.
You ever play roulette?
On occasion.
Let me give you a word of advice. Always bet on black.
But yeah, okay, cool. So I think black overwhelmingly. I think pretty much because of Wesley Snipes, it's 56%. So it's one of the closer splits, but I think it's almost 2-1 or 3-2 in favor of black. So
Does anybody else like just kind of like retrofit Letty into this movie in their head? Joey specifically.
No.
I know that she's not in it, but at the same time, like I
She's there in
feel like
spirit.
she's. Yeah, but I feel like I remember her like I know she's not in the movie, but like every time I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, the one with the safes, and like if I think about that quickly, I just imagine her being part
Riding
of
on
the
top, like with a lasso. Yeah.
essentially. Yeah, it kind of feels like that, and I'm just like, oh, she's like so integrated because we've talked about this before that like as much as Letty's a huge part of the franchise, she's really not in that many of the movies.
Yeah, because they fucking killed her.
Immediately in the last one.
and just wait, there's more shenanigans to come, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you got a sense of, but you don't really know the context of yet. But you will in 2
Yeah.
weeks.
It's just very interesting. Like I feel like she's in this movie. She resonates deep within it. It feels like she's in it as much as she's not.
Well, I think she does kind of loom large, like because Dom is still very much grieving her death,
True.
and is actively dealing with that in this movie.
That's
and
fair.
he's talking
It's maybe-
about it. That lady The Brazilian lady is kind of
Elena.
there as a
Elena.
stand-in for Letty almost.
So here's a question that I have that I was inspired to ask from that scene where he goes back and she's like, why did you come back here for a $20 chain, $20 chunk of metal or whatever? And he says, because it's worth it. He then says something to the effect of like, I'd never thought I'd meet someone who understood how much I loved her, but you get it. And I was wondering, is he in love with Elena now because she understands that Dom loves Letty?
No.
I think that's some man logic. That would make
Well,
sense
I don't
to
think
me.
he's in love with her. He maybe has some
He
hard
loves
eyes
her.
for her.
Or he loves her, but he's not in love with her.
I can't spoil things, but I mean, things are more serious than you have maybe seen so far, and you're going to find that very early in the next movie.
Yeah.
Things are kind of serious between the two of them in a way that feels a little disrespectful to Letty, but also not. I don't know.
He's hurting, and here's this woman, she's tough. What was that thing that he said about her, or was that him that said something about
Hobbs says she's got a great smile.
No. The grease under the
About Letty.
fingernails thing.
Oh, about 80% angel, 20% devil.
Yeah, that woman is clearly exactly that. You know what I mean? Like, she's
Letty?
tough. The Brazilian lady.
Oh, so you're saying Elena fits this picture too?
Yes. And here's this vacuum in his life that has been left by the death of this woman that he loved so much. Here's this other woman who's the same approximate size and shape. And I don't mean that like literally, although that is literally true.
It's
but
literally
like,
true.
I just
yeah.
like the same
She fits
kind
the
of
mold.
textured character who has also lost somebody that she loved. They can find common ground. They can bond on that, and some sexy feelings, some romantic feelings might happen, like as a chemical reaction. But that's not love. That's just like we're two very sad and lonely people who are grieving the death of the people that we loved, and we're coming together.
Well, we will circle back on this
Okay.
in 2 weeks, and we will get an update then. I do think that, in a way that I've never really thought about, that Elena is kind of a slightly more stereotypically feminine version of Letty.
Yeah.
But she's like a cop too, like a badass cop. So
She's like a little less butch than Letty, but not that much.
I think
yes,
she's got a little bit of a softness to her.
she does
That Letty does not necessarily, that I think Letty has, but that Letty doesn't necessarily show
Right.
outwardly
in these movies.
Yep.
Which I think is an interesting, I think they're obviously similar, but I don't know if I ever really thought about how similar they were until tonight. So thank you for that, Kara.
Yeah,
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
here
like
for.
we definitely thought about it, but you're right. Like they are pretty much a carbon copy. They fit very nicely, and your analogy is perfect. That like she fits in the same shape as Letty. Like they're like right over top of each other.
Like that's actually a very common thing to happen when people like lose
In real
a romantic
relationships.
partner.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, it'll be like almost kind of creepy when they start dating again because it's like, whoa, like you just found somebody who sounds and looks and is the same
Yep.
texture as that person that you lost. Dom claims to appreciate a fine body of any
regardless of make.
any
Mhm.
make, but he clearly has a type. So
It's just
Yeah.
different hair color, man. That's it. Yeah.
I hated Gal Gadot's hair color in this. It's like a lighter, almost blonde. Hated
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah, I like her better with dark hair.
Any possibility, but
Fair
like,
point.
Yeah,
Same.
I'm not. I think that I was just more distracted by just like I don't even have a preference. It's like anything is totally fine by me.
Hi, Rachel. I do like that, and this is again going back to the age-old question of like how much of a clown is Roman, how much of a clown should Roman be, how competent should he be, because as it goes on, I really don't like where he winds up in Fate, but I really think it's kind of funny in a way that is not necessarily good, but I think it says a lot about his character, that he is hired, like when they have the Ocean's 11 building a team montage, they're like, we want the guy with circus, we want a guy who can talk his way out of anything, blah, 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 blah. We want a chameleon. Like, they literally bring Roman, I know that they bring Roman on because he's part of the family, because he's Brian's guy.
Yeah.
But they literally bring him on because he can talk his way into or out of anything. And they're like, okay, cool, Roman, here's your time to shine. And he fails. He fails miserably.
He doesn't seem to be able to talk himself out of things. To talk himself into things, yes, but to like actually get out of a situation, it doesn't seem like he has that half of the skill set.
No, he's not good at things.
And obviously, like, this takes place in Brazil. There's, like, a different racial dynamic. But I feel like sending a black man into a police station, of the people who are going to pass through, like, no questions asked, whatever, like, maybe not him. him.
Yeah, like why didn't you send Rico and Tego in, right? Like, because they
Or-
kind of most blend.
Like, I understand that you have him there because he is the one who's supposed to be able to talk his way into and out of anything, but, like, you have a guy who's literally, who's brought on to be a chameleon, right? Right, they're like, we need a chameleon, there's Han. And Han, that skill set is not utilized at all, whatsoever.
True.
It's like, well, why can't you, like, I understand that, like, in this case, like, you kind of need a blend of the two, when you basically give Roman Brian's idea. It says, well, Caucasians, like, it's a tan. Haven't you ever heard of a tan? It's like, well, no. Like, this is very blatantly, like, a terrible plan. Han is, I mean, very clearly Korean. The chameleon he could kind of pass. Like, that's why he's there, right? Like, it's...
Han does
I don't
blend into the
understand.
background. Like, if we weren't watching the movie, like, and seeing Han, our attention being brought to Han, I do think that he would kind of disappear in the background. Because, like, even when you're, like, watching, like, him sitting there eating with Gal Gadot, like, looking at the people, like, Han fits perfectly in the background of these movies. Like, he's, like, really good at blending.
What does he add to the team? I mean, we love him, but does he do anything in this movie?
He does put on a cop uniform at some point, right? He steals one of the cop cars.
Yeah, but they just need, like, a warm body, essentially.
No, but no, that's the exact point. He goes with Gal to do the, like, reconnaissance.
Yeah, and she does all of the work.
Yeah, but they didn't know that, right? They brought him in to do it.
Well, you never send a man to do a woman's job.
That's very true, and I agree. But I'm saying, like, he was brought in to do that job. They didn't know that she was going to be able to do it better than him. They had, like, she was, like, second string. But she just, took the starter job immediately afterwards.
And honestly, I love that. Like, it's great that she turns out to be better at it than he does.
She's better at everything that everyone does.
I know. I actually cried a little bit when she was driving around inside when they were all, like, looking to see, like, who could do it the fastest, and it was her, and it made me cry a little.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, this movie... So, actually, how many of these movies so far have made you cry? Is this
all
the only
of them.
one?
Oh,
Really?
Okay. I cry during every movie.
I mean, just listen to any episode of Wistful Thinking, you'll hear... Because this movie has... Like, it made me... Like, most of the time I cry when it's happy tears. This movie has made me cry when they pop the safe open and Danza Kuduro opens, and they just play because I'm like, our guys did it. Like, they did the job.
They finished one last job.
I do want to talk about, though, continuing the conversation we just had, who on this team actually does things that they are especially equipped to do? Like, Rico and Tego do the demolition, or like the pipe bombs. So they're important.
Yes.
Gal does her thing. Giselle does her thing.
Yeah.
We have Brian and Dom do their thing. Tej does his thing.
Seems to be like a data specialist. Like, she's the one who is like, yo, the great thing about public buildings is that there's public records. She's the one on the computer who's being all like beep boop.
Which
like,
should be
pulling up all
Tej's
this
job.
stuff.
They bring in Tej
It should be
to do
Tej's
this.
job.
But Tej is busy driving the RC car.
Oh, that's fair.
He is the RC car driver. That's his specialty.
I mean, well, his specialty is circuits, which is the most generic and meaningless specialty of anybody in this movie.
I think it's like robotics is what they kind of mean.
Right.
Probably.
And, people can equate hardware with software and data, but those are two very different specialties.
Without a doubt, the thing that he is most equipped for, best equipped, the thing that they need him more than anything else to do in this movie, which he does, is actually literally open the safe. Like, they need his technical warehouse to do that.
True.
So he's there for that. I feel like I think she's also maybe supposed to be the most learned one, because in the first movie, she's studying in a room.
Yeah.
In this one, we hear Dom talking about his dad, spending it like every night, like helping Mia learn and getting better and whatever. And I feel like she's supposed to be, they don't go too far into it. I think she's supposed to be the one, like, the book smart one.
Yes.
But, like, she's not really supposed to be there, I don't think, right? Like, she's with Brian. I'm just, like, thinking of the people that they call in. Like, they call in Han, he doesn't really do a lot. They call in Roman, he doesn't really do a lot.
No, he's useless.
Like, I love having them all here, don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to figure out
I feel like Gal could probably have done Tej's job, right? Between Gal and Mia, like, we could have got rid of Tej, too.
if they know how to open the safe.
Yeah. And they needed his, like, connections. He's, like, also the network guy, right? Like, they're like, oh, we need a safe to practice on. Like, okay, I got it. I had a life before you guys, too.
Yeah.
I disagree about Mia not needing to be there. Because you need a logistics person. Like, you need somebody who can gather the information, organize the information, and then disseminate the information.
The man in the chair.
Yeah.
As they said in Spider-Man.
Exactly. And
You definitely need this.
She's a man.
She's a man. That's a line from a movie you have not seen yet, but you will see soon.
Yeah.
You will see soon. I feel like one thing, talking about the connections and talking about how people know each other and the knowledge and the shared history, like the fact that Brian knows about the DSS and knows about Hobbs, I feel like that is mentioned in one line and then never brought up again. Like, he says something like, when the FBI wants to find somebody, that's who they call. This guy, he's Old Testament, blood, bullets, wrath of God. They're like, I know that. He's like, I know this guy. We shouldn't fuck with him. And then that is never brought up again. It's like, I know who this guy is. Don't ask me any more questions.
No, but
Yeah, but they've clearly had a run in the past, I guess.
Right. And I feel like I want to see that.
But I feel like that's a thing, like, you could have, like, heard of this guy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, my boss is such an asshole. And you're like, who is it? And it's like, Hobbs. And you're like, oh, yeah, like, I heard about this guy. He sucks.
No, but Joey, it did sound to me like they had definitely had a run in it.
Right? Like that
Yeah.
he was on a job somewhere and Hobbs came in and like, totally usurped the power or whatever and just like made it his show. Like, which it seems like he does here. It seems like he does everywhere.
Or maybe they like went to Quantico together or something.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know. Do you think Brian went to Quantico?
No, not at all. He just kind of like
So
supersedes
we're not
it.
even sure if he's FBI because we're very murky and we talked about this in the opening, which now you can listen to the opening because there's no more spoilers to have. But we're not sure if he's ever actually FBI or if he's just a cop or he got promoted from cops to FBI. We don't know exactly what his training is. It seems murky at best.
Now that The Rock has showed up and I have some context for his character, I want to know more about the beef between him and Vin Diesel.
Like, behind the scenes?
Yeah.
There's not much to know.
They just refuse to work together.
Yeah, the TLDR of it is basically The Rock thinks Vin Diesel is a diva, and The Rock is like this very hardworking actor, and apparently there was just a lot of personality clashes, and I think whatever extent of this is true, Vin Diesel is maybe upset that when this kind of became The Rock's franchise, which is sort of what tends to happen.
Yeah.
Like, he's franchise Viagra, he comes in, makes the franchise bigger, and then kind of becomes the face of that franchise. And this
Right.
is very clearly Vin Diesel's franchise, at least, to a lot of people into Vin Diesel, like this is his baby, right? I think that there was a lot of hurt feelings there, and then he probably didn't behave well on set. From there, I think it just became like a clash of egos, and then The Rock on Instagram one time called out a bunch of candy asses on the set of The Fast and Furious. They can't really be in the same room together. Tyrese is Team Vin. And Joe, do we know anybody else? Is there anybody else who like has come out and publicly, pledged allegiance to one side or the other?
No, but it really seems like a lot of the family is like Team Vin, right?
They would have to be. Some guy just walks in here and is like, I'm here to save this franchise.
Yeah, like
you
jacking
guys."
all our steez. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
The reason that I wanted to know more about it is because we did watch Los Bandoleros, which is directed by Vin Diesel and has like a very strong political message, I felt. Socio-political message about, the haves and the have-nots and our corrupt world that we live in. And The Rock is a fucking Republican. So I was like, is it political differences perhaps?
Do you think he really is though?
I
Or
think
just
he's
an
one of the good
opportunist?
ones.
There's no such thing. The reason that I say that is that at this point in history, if you are still identifying as such, what the fuck is wrong with you?
What it's going to become when we have a Dwayne Johnson, Charlize Theron ticket, and we predicted it years before it happened.
No.
We did.
What?
we did.
Charlize can't run for
I
president.
know, but we still want her to be Veep.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be fun. Is she a Republican?
I don't know, but she loves The Rock.
She's a South African.
What Joe and I have said is he's exactly the kind of person to unite the country.
I don't think that's true.
Well, maybe not. I mean, it's almost certainly not true, but in our heart of hearts, it is true.
Yeah.
Again, just like the first movie, Joe, we just talked about this in the last few minutes. The race in this movie, the quarter mile, the $1 million quarter mile,
Yes.
way longer than a quarter mile.
We track speeds and judge how fast they're going and how long they're on screen. It's very long.
My general understanding of like traffic in South American cities is that it's not great. So I was surprised to see them like being able to drag race through empty streets.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like any movie in New York where you're like, how can you drive? Like, the average speed in New York, I think, is something like 13
I think
miles
the
an
speed
hour.
limit is and the speed limit is 25.
The greatest, and I think I've mentioned this on this podcast before. The greatest driving experience I've ever had is driving the speed limit in New York at 2 a.m., hitting every green light. Like, it
Yes.
just
Ooh,
feels
yeah.
like you are flying
That is
through
a
the
good
city, and you're doing 25 miles an
Oh,
hour.
I
It's
agree,
like I
man.
don't understand,
feels
and
so
it's
nice.
amazing.
It
I
does
love
feel
it.
amazing.
The
And you
greatest.
get like, especially if you're like going up one of those avenues that like doesn't have a hill or anything, you can just see them all. And you're like, yeah, green lights for miles, baby.
Yeah. At the end of this movie, I think this is the last new note that I took. when they open the safe and Rico and Tego are playing with the cards, and one of them like lets the cards loose, like he's like shuffling, riffling through the cards, and he like shoots them out. Like that's a metaphor for ejaculation, right? Like that's a visual, like he just came in his pants, right?
Wait, what?
What are you talking
At the
about?
end, when they're cracking the safe,
Yeah.
and everybody's looking at the safe, and they're playing with the cards.
And he has it. He's like has it crunched in his hand, and he just like like sprays
Yeah.
them everywhere.
Like
I
that's
don't
like
know.
a visual representation of like him coming.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if you want to read it that way, sure.
Absolutely, I want to read it that way.
It's one of those things though, like that's like a common thing for me that like, you know, dropping the glass when you see a beautiful girl or something, right? Like it fits the exact same. It's just like an awestruck reaction to me.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the type of reaction, but I'm just like it's a visual like shooting out
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
projectile in
A
an
release
arc,
of
whatever.
tension.
Yeah.
Also.
Ooh.
Kara, do you have any other notes or any other thoughts about Fast Five? Any other favorite moments, least? Is there anything about this movie that you did not like?
I didn't like The Rock. Immediately, I was
Right.
like, this guy's an asshole. Fuck this guy. I can see why they don't get along.
One thing that is interesting is he softens as these movies go on. Like this is like he's kind of a robot here, and he definitely he becomes a character essentially, as opposed to an archetype.
Yeah, he definitely softens up for sure. I agree.
Yeah. It's not that I like disliked it, I guess, but it just was very stressful the whole time, just being like, oh my god, they're killing and hurting so many people.
Yeah, you
much.
get over it. It's like it keeps happening, but like and also, we've talked about this before, is they announce to you that every crooked cop in Rio is following them. So it's all like crooked cops, and they really don't kill that many people on the street. It's mostly crooked cops. Like even on
Yeah.
the motorcycles, it's cops. So
Killing people is one thing, like whatever, they're dead. But like it's more about like the injured bystanders. You know, like an injury can really fuck up your life.
Like I do love
Yeah.
when they're like Mia's on the radio and she's like laughing. She's like, "Did you guys just take out a bank? You guys!"
Yeah. Multiple civilians died in that
yeah,
situation.
exactly.
So this can go one of two ways. Either you can take this as reassurance that everything is fine, or you can condemn it for not being serious enough about the casualties. Like essentially in the MCU, when like there's Sokovia, like there's the floating city, and like the Avengers do that whole thing, they like have to deal with the fallout of their actions, right? Like I feel like a lot of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is about to a certain extent is these heroes trying to save the world, but kind of at the same time making the world an actively worse place. And them having to deal, specifically Iron Man, having to deal with like the ramifications of the fallout of their actions. And kind of like the arms race. I feel like here they don't address that at all. It's just like, nope, everything's fine. Like that Brazilian job, everything's totally fine.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
like address it even on like the TV, like the mass murderers that like killed all.
Yeah,
of
like
these
the
things.
whole time I was thinking 89 people died today. You know, like
Yeah.
just hearing the news report in my head, tragedy struck
global
today, is blah, blah,
terrorists
blah, blah, blah.
attack our city.
From
Yeah.
Bird Hapley from Parks and Rec.
Yes.
It's not that I'm like that concerned about the civilian casualties, because obviously this is an action movie. There was just something about this one that the whole time I was like, oh god, oh no, oh, that person definitely just got decapitated.
Yeah, because they take out like whole lampposts and like half of the block and stuff.
They could have killed an entire bus full of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even so much like what happens, but the fact that like not a single one of them seems to show even like a little bit of concern about it. Like, oops.
They're still
you know?
joyous while they're doing
Instead,
it.
yeah, Brian's just giggling and yelling, yeah! Oh, YOLO. Somebody says you only live once. And I wrote down
They do.
what year was YOLO a thing, and it turns out 2011, the year that
Okay,
this came out.
perfectly timed. Because this movie was probably finished filming in like 2010, so this might have been ahead of the curve.
Beat Drake to the punch.
Mm.
I thought it was really cute that Dom and Brian do like some literal tandem driving. Like they're like bound together, driving together. That was
Wonderful.
cute. Oh, the horrendous noise that those dragging safes would have made in real life.
And how frictionless it seems, right?
Yeah, like there's not even really like sparks flying or anything. But I was really thinking about the noise, just watching it and thinking like, oh, those would have made like a really terrible noise.
You're like
in
a
real life.
screeching, like grinding.
It's so loud,
Yep.
but it's just like you hear like a little bit of like
swish.
somebody dragging something on concrete. Oh, I wrote down, oh, here comes the Nas, because the whole movie there's no Nas until the end.
Yeah, you just need that one last tug on the safe. And Nas becomes less and less important, and that's like one of the the most horrible things about these movies. It gets left by the wayside, and I get really sad about it.
Joe, did you catch anything this time around that you want to talk about that we have not talked about yet?
No, I think I brought up the things that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, I had a question.
Yes.
That has literally nothing to do with these movies other than cars. What's your Barbie dream car?
What do you mean? What's the car?
Like, what is your Barbie dream car? Like, what is your dream car?
I have a dream car, a late 90s, early 2000 Porsche 911 Turbo.
Cool.
Yeah, that's like my old man dream car. To me, when you say Barbie dream car, though, I just think of a Mazda Miata. Yeah.
My dad had one of those.
Cara, do you have a Barbie dream car?
Well, I have a few of them. One is a Jurassic Park Jeep.
Ooh,
The first movie.
that'd be
Yes,
cool.
okay.
And the second one is like an old, beat up pickup truck in a fun color. I don't even,
Okay.
it's not even like a specific one. I'll take a Ford, I'll take a Chevy, or even one of those great Toyota, what were those? The Toyota,
FJ.
maybe. Yeah, whatever their pickup truck was.
Oh, no,
I just love
Tacoma.
old pickup trucks.
Tacoma is a...
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really care.
It's okay.
I just want a pickup truck.
My one friend was Croatian. He was like, why don't you have a pickup truck? And I was like, why would I need a pickup truck? And he's like, because you live in America. Like, you should just have one. And I was,
Oh, how
No.
sweet.
yeah, it was
I
like
love
a very,
that idea.
It was a very sweet thought.
What about you, Joey?
I don't know if I have one. When I was little, my Barbie dream car was a Dodge Viper.
Ooh, that's cool.
But I don't know that I have thought about that car in a while until this very question. Realistically, my Barbie dream car is a car that I don't necessarily have to drive. Like, I like driving. I don't mind driving. But if I can get, I go to CES every year, I can see these self-driving cars. Give me something that I can just get around in, and I can, get some time back. Like, give me that. I don't care what it is. Just keep me safe and let me do other things.
Joey
Yeah.
and I talk about this offline a lot. Like, this is anti-gearhead of me to say, but I'm, like, with him, where, like, if I could sleep and just arrive in my destination, and the car would just do, like, all the work, I'd be totally fine with it. Also, like, people drive like fucking idiots, so, like, if we were all
Sure.
on, like, this grid thing that would just, like, the cars could go as fast as possible, they're all just, like, chained together, like, this
Well,
would
the
be great.
irony, it's not really the irony, but the irony is that if everybody was in a self-driving car, we would go slower but get there faster.
You're
Like,
absolutely
you
right,
wouldn't
'cause
have to,
there'd
like,
be no
rocket
traffic.
through things. Yes, exactly. There's no gridlock, there's no slowdowns because people are like, ooh, flashing lights, what's this about? Oh, there's nothing here?
Rubbernecking, no,
Exactly.
nothing. None of these things. You just arrive at your destination. And, like I said, ultimately, I just want to be able to, like, sleep in the car, like, dick around, and then just be like, oh, I'm here, cool. Like,
Yeah.
like a 2-hour drive that, like, you're not actually driving would be great. You could just, like, arrive at all kinds of destinations. Or, like, start your car and, like, wake up in a new city. Like, I'd be like, oh, man, like, I want to
The really interesting thing about seeing these kind of self-driving concept cars, because they're only concept cars, like there's some level of autonomy. Like, there's ultimately like an autonomous level 5 car is the one that like is just, that's the dream, that's the goal. Like we're on 2 or 3 now, I think. Like there's like one I think is like assistance, and I don't remember exactly the breakdown. Anyway, we're in the middle. We got a ways to go before 5. But the idea of like what an inside of a car looks like wouldn't look like a car. Like you wouldn't need to be 2 seats in the front, 2 in the back. Like you could have
face
be
each
like a little
other.
pod.
Yeah.
it could be anything you want. Like you can have like instead of like a window, it could be like a screen, like all sorts of stuff. Like it's exciting to think about how to reinvent that.
I googled old Toyota pickup truck and truly did find my Barbie dream car, which I just
What is it?
messaged you guys. So it's like an
Oh,
80s
yeah.
Toyota Tacoma pickup truck with one of those like
And it's-
covers on the back.
And it's like teal.
It's
with
teal, which is my
stripes.
favorite color.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
this is it.
This is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
This reminds me, it's not that, just the cabin cover on the back reminds me, but I'm not going to spoil anything because I don't think you've seen it yet, Joe, but in the new Breaking Bad movie, El Camino, I think an El Camino would be kind of a cool Barbie dream car, too.
Oh, yeah,
Like
that's
there's,
cool.
just kind of a bad, like I think realistically, like if I'm not doing and I've made this clear, I think from the beginning, that 2 things. Number 1, I don't really care about cars, but number 2, my preference is always toward the American muscle, kind of like the old Charger, Challenger kind of thing, like that era, right? And I think the El Camino is sort of in that kind of old American muscle kind of car, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
that's my Barbie dream car.
Makes sense. I like them. I think you guys both had great answers.
Well, thank you, and I think you did too.
Thank you, sir.
We have to play a couple games here. First up, this ain't no 10-second race, aka Boy Do We Have a Podcast for You. Have either of you found a tweet this week, or do you need to take some time to...
Ooh, I need a tweet.
Yeah, I gotta look.
Before we go through these, let's review the last time. I've not looked at last time yet.
Go ahead.
So last time, Joe and Cara, I found at Hawkeye_Yvette. Yvette on Twitter. Fuck that Bonnie and Clyde shit. I want to love like Tej and Suki. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing. Of course. Why not? Why would there be?
Yeah.
Joe, you found Blues Buzz, and actually you found Sean ZD at Ghetto Smurf 618. First NHL game with my Cub Scout troop. Then after we moved north, I got birthday tickets when they played the Hawks and got to see Keith Kachuk play. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing. Cara, you found Miles Surrey at HK Surrey. I've contacted Stanley Kubrick's spirit and through a Ouija board called Marvel Movies, quote, Weak Sauce. But added that he's, quote, part of the Fast and Furious familia. Really interesting stuff. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Cara, you got a like.
Nice.
Oh, hell yeah.
1 point. There you go.
So that's another point, pushing Cara ever closer to my score. Cara, you're up to 7. I'm at 9 through 57 episodes. You're at 7 through 4 episodes.
Cool.
So, Joe, I want you to hit us with your tweet. You found someone, so why don't you hit us with this?
My tweet is from 0G-Spot at 0G-Spot. When I go to Las Vegas and think I will bet it all on red or black in one shot, my conscience is like, and it's a gif of this anime being slapped with with a stack of cash. Boy, do we have a podcast for you, because that's exactly what they do in this. So it's from January too, so there's no luck in that, but sure.
Yeah, who knows? But here, this is the one I have. I found Katie Babs at CI Babs on Twitter. She's verified. My God, Paul Walker in Varsity Blues. Crying, and Deep Blue, and Fast and Furious, and Joyride, and 8 Below, and She's All That, and Takers, and Brick Mansions. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. What I did is I searched for Brick Mansions. Almost exclusively, the only people talking about Brick Mansions online are us. Like, we have kind of cornered the Twitter market on Brick Mansions, but other people are talking about Brick Mansions. So they're out there. Katie Babs, this is for you, Katie Babs.
Makes sense.
Cara, I got yours. If you want to read yours aloud, who it's from, and then what it is.
This is from a person named Gus at GM Corsaro.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting how people like all these fake, quirky relationship tweets, but ignore mine when I am honest about my last girlfriend leaving me because I am, quote, too passionate about the Fast and Furious franchise.
Oh my God.
It reminds me of Letty leaving Dom in Fast and Furious, which is maybe another spoiler for myself.
No, she doesn't really leave
No?
Dom ever.
Oh, okay, good.
Well,
No.
Well, whatever. I don't give a shit. I just thought that was a good tweet.
It's a
it's a very good tweet. Boy, do we have a podcast for you, Gus.
And honestly, I've been saying from the very first movie that Letty should leave Dom for his sister. So, if it goes in that direction, I would be pleased.
The truth, as you can imagine, is a little bit more complicated than that. But
I'm sure it is.
You'll find out in 2 weeks. We've got one more game to play. Dude, what's my car? Cara, do you want to guess or do you want to help me give clues?
Give clues.
This is Wes sent this in a little under a month ago when he talked about Too Fast. So, Joe, this is what Wes says about the picture. He says, I've got a car pick for you this week. Nothing has really jumped out at me recently, so I'm going to go with one I particularly like.
Okay.
Oh, I feel like I know this car. I've seen this car before.
Oh, sure, yeah. This is a car that you can see in the wild for sure.
Definitely was in my high school parking lot.
Oh. What kind of high school did you go to, Cara? A nice one? A
What?
public one? A regular one?
Oh, I went to a public school.
Okay. Was it in a nice neighborhood? I'm trying to get clues.
It was actually, I'm from a very tiny town, so it was a regional high school. With 3 towns of varying economic situations, but definitely not like a fancy place, not a fancy high school, not a lot of fancy people.
Okay.
More fancy people in that town now than there were when I lived there.
Story of our lives.
So, Joe, this is a Japanese car.
Okay.
It is blue.
Okay.
Although for years and years and years and years, I didn't think that this company was actually Japanese.
What did you think it was?
From someplace else in the Pacific.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Joey, do you know what I mean when I say that?
Oh, yes. Wes says this is maybe his all-time favorite car.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But when he was in high school, talking about Cara, it was a runner-up.
Okay.
This is a car that has appeared in the movies. I'm not going to go more in-depth than that.
Okay.
It's been around since 1992.
Is
Actually,
it-
before I give any more clues,
Okay.
if you guess maybe 3 cars from the franchise, I feel like you could get this.
I'm gonna guess it's a Skyline.
No. Without even thinking about the car, just what are the other sort of iconic... Maybe it's not as iconic as I'm making it out to be, but I think this is definitely one that is... No.
A third Japanese car. Subaru WRX. Is it a Subaru?
It's a WRX.
It
I was
is?
gonna say ding ding ding, and then Joey didn't say anything.
Yeah,
and
I was like, you guys
nervous,
blue balled me there for a second.
Well, the car is blue. It is a third-gen RX-7.
Electric
It's a Subaru Impreza WRX.
Yes. Doesn't Wes have a Subaru WRX? I think he does. Or he has one, I think.
So, Karen, you want to explain what you thought, where you thought it was from, et cetera, et
And
cetera?
Subaru's the best pick for the car that everybody doesn't think is from Japan. And did you think it was from Australia?
Of course.
Yes, everyone does.
Of course.
Yep. Sorry, I had to get it out before you did. The logo looks like an Australian flag, and it throws people off every time.
But like, I feel like the Outback commercials were always very
Australia-centric.
Australian-centric.
Yes.
You know, also it's called an Outback.
Yes.
I literally did not know that it wasn't an Australian car company until 5 years ago when I was like, maybe I'll get a Subaru. And then I was like, oh, it's a Japanese company.
It's a Japanese
Interesting.
company, yeah. And so many people think this. It's like, it's not just you. It's like a common misnomer that like a lot of people think. Between the badge looking like an Australian flag to people and the Outback thing, yep, you're 100% right. Everybody thinks it's like, if you don't think it's Japanese, if you're like, where's that car from? People are like, Australia? It's a running joke in the card groups too.
So to make sure that I don't shortchange Wes's picture, if I were to
Go ahead,
describe this, I would say that there's a very prominent spoiler. I would say that it's very low to the ground. I would say there's a very large exhaust.
Oh, it's an STI too. That's really cool.
There's a large exhaust on the hood.
Yes.
It's got rims.
It's got rims.
So this color, the color that it comes in is like what they call Subaru blue. Like when you think of a WRX.
Subaru?
No, just Subaru blue. Like that's like their color. Like, you know, like Tiffany blue. Like if you think of Subaru blue, this is Subaru blue. It's very classic for it to come with the gold rims like this too. I love these old WRXs, and I do love these old STI, like the WRX STIs of these years. I think they're the coolest ones. Zach has kind of a newer one. I'm not sold on the styling of the new ones, and I don't know if it's nostalgia or because like I just don't like them as much, but these ones are really fucking cool.
Does the STI still exist? Because I feel like since we've
It does.
rebranded STD to STI, I feel like that has taken on a negative context, a negative connotation, and I don't know that's necessarily the
No, it's
best
one
name
of-
for any product.
Yeah, but it's like one of these things. It's like for like Subaru technical innovations, or I don't know. Let me think.
If that's close to what the name is, that's a shitty name, O'Connor. Shitty call, O'Connor. Like, just change the name to something that's not related to, like, you know.
It's been around before STIs were, is what I'm saying. Yeah, Subaru Technica International. That's what it stands for.
I mean, no, STIs have been around for centuries.
We didn't call them STIs until
Pretty much
recently.
for all of human history,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, I mean, yeah, for the 6,000 years that this planet has been around,
Yes.
they've been around.
Listen, as long as there is a vocational school that still advertises itself on television as UTI,
Yes.
STI is fine.
True. UTI is bad too. You're right.
So, Karen, next episode, we're going to be talking about Fast and Furious 6, the other one that people consider the greatest in the franchise. I think 5 and 6 pretty much, you know, neck and neck, like we've been saying, the two best. So I hope you're excited.
I am excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited for you to watch the next one too. I think it's wacky and fun, and like I keep teetering back and forth about which one I think is more fun based on my fun rankings, and I don't know if I'll ever come to a good conclusion.
Yeah, right now I think I have this one as my favorite by a hair, but I don't know. We're going to have to see what I feel like next movie. But in between now and then, Joe, you and I are going to go to the theater separately, and we're
yes.
going to see Ford v Ferrari.
True.
We're going to talk about that next week on the Pit Stop. So, if you are listening to this and you have not seen Ford v Ferrari, it's in theaters now. You have a week to go do that, or spoil yourself by listening to our episode next week. But Ford v Ferrari, go catch it in theaters, and then come back next week for that. Kara, any other last thoughts about Fast 5 before we head from Rio to location unknown? Don't want to spoil anything.
Not really. I just realized this week, since I'm thinking so much more about cars these days, the phrase running on all cylinders is a car phrase.
It is. Yeah, hitting on all cylinders, that's for sure.
Well, Kara, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. In between now and then, so actually, last week as this comes out, your episode about Can't Hardly Wait is out. And then next week, your episode on Jawbreaker. You still doing Jawbreaker?
Yep.
So go check out Wistful Thinking. But for all 26 shows here on the Podcast Network and all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you can go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at Too Fast, Too Forever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us. family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at toofasttooforever.com. We forgot to mention at the top of the show, but today as you're listening to this, if it comes out as you're listening, like on Tuesday, this is hashtag Thank You Patrons Day. It's a site-wide thing on Patreon where I don't want to brag, but I feel like we are very grateful for the people who support us on there. And we are effusively praising and thankful of all of you. But again, thank you now, especially today, your holiday, your Thank You Patrons Day. So thank you all for supporting us over there. If you go to toofast2forever.com, you can find the next 2 lap themes, get some swag, our eternal undying love and affection.
Donate some toys. You'll donate some toys.
Toys for tots, absolutely. toofast2forever.com. Come back next week for Ford v Ferrari. Then come back in 2 weeks, joining us, you, me, and Cara, to talk about Fast and Furious 6. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe, too.
And I am Cara Gael O'Regan, who remembered to say her name.
She remembered it tonight, and we are going to see you next time right here on Too Fast, Too Forever.